Buddy, it's good to have you here. Tuesday, November 18th, 2025. Hope everybody's had a good month so far. We're gathered here tonight for a special called session of the Athens-Clarke County Mayor and Commission, which will be immediately followed by our agenda-setting session. Go ahead and begin with a roll call from our clerk.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
Taylor.
Here.
Wright.
Present.
Fisher.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Culpepper.
Here.
Myers.
Here.
Thornton.
Here.
Hamby.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. I'll begin with our civility pledge from the Georgia Municipal Association. This indicates that the way we govern ourselves is important as the positions we take, that our collective decisions will be better when differing views have had the opportunity to be fully vetted and considered, that all people have the right to be treated with respect, courtesy, and openness, that we value all input and commit to conduct ourselves at all times with civility and courtesy to each other. All right, so for folks who are joining us tonight, whether in the chamber or across the globe online, we are going to have a couple opportunities for public input. We'll have one in front of our single item here on our special called session. And then when we move to our agenda setting session, we'll have an opportunity for public input on the consent agenda. We'll have an opportunity for public input on each of the 8 planning and zoning items that we have. And then we'll have an opportunity for public input on old and new business. Each opportunity tonight is a 3-minute opportunity for public input. You see a light in front of the clerk. It will turn green when you begin speaking, where you provide your name and place of residence. It will turn yellow when you have 30 seconds remaining, and then it will turn red when your 3 minutes has expired. And I'll thank you for your time with us tonight. We are here just for the special called session at the moment. Is there anybody who would like to speak to that single item on the special called session, the College Square Pedestrian Plaza? All right, just a name and place of residence.
Okay. My name is David Lynn. I'm at 226 Hill Street, Athens, Georgia. I have the pleasure of serving as co-director of the Athens Downtown Development Authority. And on behalf of the Board of Directors of the Downtown Development Authority, we express our thanks to the Mayor and the Board of Commissioners for entering into this partnership to construct what undoubtedly will be one of the premier public spaces in Georgia. This will be a heavily visited, heavily photographed, and produce a lot of memories for visitors and residents alike, and we appreciate your participation in this project. We've assembled a dream team of designers, planners, engineers, managers, legal help to assist us in this project. And we're here to answer any questions you have, and we're excited to get moving. It's getting towards the finish line. And I'll leave you with a comment that's always struck me about downtown. The mayor of Durham, North Carolina once spoke about the importance of downtowns, and he said a downtown describes a community like a living room defines a home. So we're building a great place for downtown and a plaza in which Athens deserves. So thank you so much for your help. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Lynn. Is there anyone else here to speak to our single item of new business on the special called session? All right, seeing none. This is an item of new business, so we do need to consider under suspension of rules. Can I have a motion for suspension of rules, please?
So moved.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Thornton.
Second.
And second from Commissioner Hamby. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries. All right, I'll entertain a motion at this point if a commissioner would like to place it on the floor.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Hamby and second from Commissioner Wright. Commissioner Hamby, any remarks?
Sure, just a couple. I appreciate former Commissioner David Lynn getting up and speaking about this. It's a big project for us. It's part of a TSPLOST project, but the Downtown Development Authority, along with your help, is making up the difference we only had about $500,000 in the TSPLOST budget for doing this. It's actually as the years have gone on, it's turned out to be a $6 million project, but it's going to be well worth it because, like Director Lynn said, this is kind of the living room, so it's not like my living room. My living room has a lot of beer bottles laying around, but I know sometimes this living room gets that as well. But at any rate, and I remember too at one of our ADDA meetings, Director Lynn mentioned that you know, it's always, whenever you're watching one of the football games, the Georgia football games on TV, they always take a shot of College Avenue and the Arch. And sure enough, this weekend, there it was. So I was glad to see that, and that's very good public relations for the university, but also for our downtown as they see something improved next time they take a shot like that. And I will say this on a side note. Mayor, you know this too, and Allison, you know this as well, that the Christmas elves are busy at work. So they will be, they're out putting up lights on College Avenue up to City Hall and down Clayton Street. So by Wednesday of next week, you should have some Christmas cheer for all to hear. So thank you.
We will take every bit of it. Mr. Wright?
Yeah, I look forward to this partnership continuing and changing when did we vote? 2020 to close the road to make it the square? And so now, instead of walking up and down the previous curbs and the previous markings for the lanes, it'll be bona fide Plaza, and I think that it'll get a lot of coverage when the football drones are here for game days and SEC nations and everybody to enjoy when we're in it.
Commissioner Fisher?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I look forward to this too. Do we have a timeline for, once we vote, when we're trying to have all this completed? Do we have a timeline?
Yeah, I think by November, December of next year.
Timeline in the agenda report has us finished by the end of the summer.
Oh,
Next summer?
that's, yeah, quicker than I thought.
2026.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, and we've experienced many a construction project, so I'm not going to swear on a Bible or anything of the sort, but that's what's in the
Thank you.
agenda report. Commissioner Myers?
Yeah, I have a question, and I am supportive of this, but first, thank you very much, Commissioner Hamby, for the news on the lights, because I was looking for those, so I'm excited.
They're really
They're
called
legit-
Christmas elves.
Yeah, okay,
So
all right,
just-
okay.
I wasn't making that up.
Okay, I'm excited about that. I was looking, since we were looking at various financing of various projects, I was looking at the, where the revenue streams were, and it was talking about, the increase in the on-street parking, and they would also talk about the increasing the ADA's share of net downtown parking from 20 to 40%, that was in the budget, and I was just curious was that something that was in the mayor's budget?
It's been there for a couple of years now.
It's been, okay, because it's
Yeah,
been there for a couple of years, because
Yeah,
it
it was my
implied that we just,
recommendation.
what?
It was my recommendation.
Okay, because it implied that, was that a change this year for that chip?
From prior years, it used to be 20%.
At least 3 years now, maybe.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
'cause the agenda report made me think that it was, that it just happened in this last one, so,
Amendment to the parking management agreement, which provided for that, for this purpose, this project.
okay. All right. Anyway, that helps me understand it, just trying to understand all the little details, but anyway, I'm happy to see this happening, and can't
Not
wait.
necessarily for this project,
It was
Right.
prior to this.
prior to this, but
Okay.
yeah, that may have been a misstatement.
That helps this project.
Yes, okay,
That helps the project, yeah.
I'm good.
Commissioner Davenport?
Yeah, I may have missed this, and thank y'all. I 100% support this. I remember years ago during COVID when we had initially voted on this. But if I missed this, then it's my bad. But it's kind of piggybacking off of Commissioner Fisher's, but and if I missed it, just David Land, just get up here and tell me. We're not completely doing construction, shutting down. How's this thing gonna be done? Like,
You made it easy on us back in 2020 by closing at vehicular traffic at that time. So unlike the Clayton Street project, we don't have to manage for vehicles, but we do have to manage for pedestrians. And our construction partner has guaranteed that they're going to keep businesses open and pedestrian access to all the
Okay.
businesses. So,
thank you.
sure.
All right, there's a motion from Commissioner Hamby and a second from Commissioner Wright. Is there an ordinance on this, Attorney Drake?
I looked, I don't see any.
I didn't either. All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries. All right, could I get a motion to adjourn the special called session?
So move.
All right, Got a motion from Commissioner Link, second from Commissioner Thornton. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right, any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. All right, we are going to move right into our agenda-setting session. The consent agenda was previously approved for inclusion in this agenda. Those are items 1 through 7. The consent agenda at the voting meeting will be approved with a single vote. Is there any member of the public who would like to speak to any of those consent agenda items, 1 through 7? All right. Would any commissioner like to remove a consent agenda item for discussion? Commissioner Link?
Number 2, please.
Any others? All right, so we'll move 2 to discussion. All right, I'm going to relocate now, and then we'll go ahead and hear our planning and zoning items from Planning Director Bruce Lonnie.
You ain't gonna move, sir. Move, sir.
All right, Bruce Lonnie's brought his pillow, his sleeping bag, his tea.
I'm sorry, I want to remove 7.
7.
Yeah, for discussion. My bad.
No worries.
That's not what's on my screen.
Yes.
Did y'all hear the joke about 2 mayors going into a bar?
No, we lied.
Sorry, Kelly.
Only 2?
Yeah, only 2.
And 1 commissioner.
It's always when I get it set up early.
Thought we were being savvy this time.
So by way of preamble, we have 8 items tonight that will be on the December meeting agenda for vote. 6 presentations.
Excuse me.
So sometimes there's a collective groan when there's 8 zoning items to present, so found a way to get a couple coupons in so that we can have 6 presentations and not
We
8
appreciate
presentations.
that brevity.
There we go.
All right, so first item is up on the screen, 2415 Jefferson Road.
Yes. There we go. All right. This is a plan development request. All of the items that I'm presenting tonight were heard at the November 6th Planning Commission meeting. This item is a plan development to reimagine and redevelop the Homewood Hills Shopping Center. The zoning there is commercial general, so if approved, this would be commercial general PD. Future land use would not be changed. It's general business now and would remain. What's proposed is a binding plan for 2 apartment buildings that would have a total of 233 units, 382 beds total arranged across the 233 units, 8 townhomes, 92,000 square feet of existing commercial would remain. The breakdown of the residential would be as follows. 9% would be studio units, 15% would be one-bedroom, 70% would be two-bedroom, and then the townhomes represent 6% of the overall. 633 surface parking spaces are proposed as part of this development plan. 362 of those would be for the residential and 271 for the commercial. And there is 29,000 square feet of plaza space, some of which is arranged in an amphitheater along the Homewood Drive frontage. There's also an amenity area proposed for the residential buildings that does include a pool. So just to get you familiar, if you're not already with the area, this is just north of the 10-loop interchange with Prince Avenue, where it shifts to Jefferson Road. You have the Moss Side development to the north. You have Homewood Hills subdivision that kind of starts just to the west, and then really more in place with this are the cottages at Homewood along Magnolia and Blossom Way that are to the west, and then there's Railbed to the south. Future land use would remain the same, as I noted, general business. Zoning is CG, with CGPD being the end result that is being requested. The surrounding zoning, it's a large parcel of commercial general. There is no commercial general on other parcels other than the front corner, which is a service station. Some photographs of the site, looking through kind of that axial drive that runs from Jefferson Road to the west and east in these two images. This is a drive from Homewood into the shopping center at the western end. And then the view on the right is Magnolia Blossom Way and the fence that is there to kind of break up the visuals between Magnolia Blossom and the backside of the existing shopping center. This is the view from Homewood Drive. Of note with this image is really the topographical drop. It's a considerable amount lower inside the development site than it is at the roadbed for Homewood Drive. And some other photographs of the existing commercial. And the adjacent residential. The upper left corner is one of the homes in Homewood Hills, and then on the lower right is an image looking down Magnolia Blossom Way and to the cottages at Homewood. So this item was heard on 3 separate occasions by the Planning Commission. Once as a preliminary, it came back with revisions, was tabled, and then came back with another round of revisions. This is the first submittal. So we've got this here for comparison. You'd see the broken up massing of the buildings to the west, the left side of the screen, where the residential would go in, and then everything to the right is that existing commercial and existing parking. So this is where they started. And after hearing comment from Planning Commission in the neighborhood and having a public meeting, at least one, I think there were several, with the neighbors, they revised it to this, which was a smaller footprint for the northernmost multifamily building, introducing those townhomes as a transitional portion of development coming from cottages at Homewood into the site. You see the amphitheater use there along Homewood Drive to the north as open space. This also punches up the landscaping that is proposed as part of this development, which also includes incorporating tree islands into the existing parking that would otherwise remain unchanged as part of this development. And then you see a little bit of change on that northern edge where that dialysis clinic was originally built, and the thinking there is that that might shift to a restaurant use. And then this is the plan that would become binding as proposed as part of the PD. Really modest changes from what you saw in that last image. We have a little bit of a change to the driveway, an improvement to the driveway entrance that it's at the western end. Kind of works with the topo a little bit better, has a better sight line for bringing folks in. Also addresses the pedestrian interconnection. So there is no vehicle interconnection into cottages at Homewood from this development, but there would be a pedestrian connection that comes along the alignment of Magnolia Blossom Way, across and through the 2 buildings, the residential buildings that are proposed. Those were the largest changes that came with this third submittal. The architecture that was submitted for the residential buildings shown above. We'll talk about Building 100 and Building 200 here in a second with the recommended conditions, but these are multi-story structures with a modest amount of commercial at the main. That ground floor commercial would face more or less inward as proposed to the shopping center. And here's building 200. This is the building to the north, 100 is the building to the south. And then these are the townhomes. And where the townhomes are located, there's a good amount of cross slope. That entry drive comes in just about a road grade and drops really quickly. So some of the units will have fewer stairs than others, just in responding to that grade. And then here are some images to kind of help see how this might be built out. The upper left-hand corner is looking from Homewood Drive into the site toward the west. The other view to note would be just below that one on the left-hand side, which is where those townhomes are located. I think there'll be a little bit more topo there, so that unit that's closest to us in the screen image will probably be recessed a little bit, and then they would become proud out of the ground from there. The area on the right, both those views are in between buildings 100 and 200, which is intended to be activated space for pedestrians with cars as sort of a secondary thing. In theory, really for fire and emergency access, but also for residents and perhaps customers of the commercial uses. There were 6 waivers requested with this plan development, started with a few more and got trimmed down to 6. From a staff evaluation standpoint, we weren't able to recommend approval of the waivers requested, largely because we weren't seeing the hardship, and with requested waivers 1, 2, and 6, it looked like you could find a way to get there, but the request itself wasn't quite hitting the mark for staff to feel comfortable requesting the waiver. I will say Planning Commission gave considerable discussion to this. They did get comfortable with these requested waivers, and they found that a couple conditions might also help address their concerns. So staff's analysis, and this is more than planning staff, this would be public utilities, public works, all of our other development review departments, had a handful of things to note. Sanitary sewer capacity right here is hard. And so the design is anticipating an on-site storage facility that would deal with wet weather flow. That is an acceptable approach from public utilities, but it is worth noting that that's how they would have to make this work. Staff found that this is partially compatible with the 2023 comp plan. It is certainly infill development. It is a property that is deserving of attention and perhaps a new life. But it is introducing more of the same housing type that we've seen in other parts of town. And at the end of this design, because it's not really redeveloping the entire site, we still have a pretty auto-centric development that doesn't really integrate the business district, which would be a reason to do a PD. It is compatible with future land use map, but not aligning exactly with zoning because of those waivers that they are requesting. The Planning Commission, in their review of this, they found that they could approve it, and they had 3 suggested conditions that helped work through their concerns. First condition is that, and this was one that was proposed as part of staff's review, that the proposed area and location of where they have their conserved tree canopy down by the railroad, that would be binding. We don't normally make canopy binding as part of PDs because we run into issues with site development where we may have to work it out. In this case, we were suggesting making an exception and having that conserved canopy be binding because there's just not that much conserved canopy on the site. Second condition from Planning Commission is that 75% of Building 100, which is that southern building, the larger of the 2 residential buildings, as it faces into that new roadway, 75% of that frontage would be used for leasable commercial or commercial-like amenity spaces. In other words, could not be used for residential units. It would have to be activated in some kind of way. And then the ground floor apartments in Building 200, which is the northernmost building, where they face inward, actually for all of those ground floor apartments, they would have to have a ground floor entry out to the street. So we would get that animation of the space through tenants moving in and out. It wouldn't just be through some interior corridor. But that was Planning Commission's recommendation, approval with those 3 conditions.
Thank you, Bruce. I'll ask if any member of the public would like to speak to this item. And again, just provide your name and place of residence.
Jack Murphy, 537 Spring Valley Road, Atlanta, Georgia, 30318. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jack Murphy. I'm the Chief Investment Officer at Carter. We're a 67-year-old development company based in Atlanta. We specialize in mixed-use and multifamily development, primarily around the Southeast, and we began working on the Homewood Village redevelopment in June of 2024. After working with our civil engineers and architect, we produced a site plan that, despite a lot of the constraints on the site, achieved the following: replacement of outdated retail with high-quality apartments, improved walkability, safety, and connectivity, increased the tree canopy from 12% to 47%, and replaced hazardous failing stormwater outfalls with modernized working outfalls that would reduce runoff to the neighboring community. All of this while having a minimal impact to traffic, according to a third-party traffic study performed by Atlas Consultants that projected an increase of less than 2 seconds of travel time going in any direction during peak hours. We submitted this plan to the city and hosted an open house at Chapelwood United Methodist. After 2 more open house meetings, 3 planning commission hearings, and numerous meetings with Commissioner Fisher, staff, local residents, we incorporated some community feedback and made the following improvements. We converted the vehicular connection to the cottage at Homewood to be pedestrian and bike only, so that would eliminate cut-through traffic through the neighborhood. We added a row of townhomes along the western edge of the property to transition the scale and introduce a for-sale component to the for-rent apartment component. We reduced the size of the northern building by over 40%, shifting density to the townhomes as well as the southern apartment building, which also moved farther south to lessen visibility from the neighborhood. And lastly, we added 4,000 square feet of ground floor retail space in the southern building, which we have programmed to be a coffee shop that would open up onto an 8,000 square foot patio. And we added 2,000 square feet of retail space in the northern building, which we have programmed to be a yoga studio, which would be adjacent to the newly added 29,000 square foot amphitheater that has public access. We do require the 6 waivers, as Bruce mentioned. 4 relate to legacy site conditions that cannot be addressed until a future phase when the existing retail leases expire. 1 reduces the minimum parking count to match with the ULI shared parking guidance for the uses on our plan. And the final 1 concerns ground floor retail, which, as Bruce mentioned, we reached a compromise on with Planning Commission reflected in conditions number 2 and 3, which we're happy to comply with, and we're also happy to comply with condition number 1. So, since our initial meetings, we've received over 40 signed petitions from neighborhood residents in support of the project and a recommendation of approval from the Planning Commission. Many of our associates at Carter, including me, have strong ties to Athens and the University of Georgia, and we know how underutilized this property is. So we would be honored to help change that, and we're happy to answer any questions that you guys might have.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak to this proposal? All right, seeing none, we'll come to commission discussion, and it's in Commissioner Fisher's district, District 5.
Thank you, appreciate it, Mayor, and want to thank Carter and really want to thank the residents of Homewood Hills. We had over 8 meetings with the project that we started last year, and when they first brought this to me, and of course, first thing I was asking, is just student housing, and they assured me it wasn't, and we went back and forth with the residents there to add in those townhouses so we can have some diversity of housing, apartments, townhouses, which will be for sale. Also, there will be a HOA attached to that townhouse complex. La Ferretta, that's been there for a number of years, will continue to stay there. Matter of fact, they're going to get new space, bigger area to operate, so there will be some restaurants there. The amphitheater is going to be really nice, and really, my hope is that people from Homewood Hills will use that amphitheater, that outside space, outdoor space, to really use that and really be sort of like a community gathering. But I do support this project. I think the one key is, most of y'all may or may not know, we are going to be getting a medical school. And I think the timing for this particular redevelopment is perfect. The medical school is within walking distance. It is on the bus line, so I think the attendance is probably going to be more medical school type students and professional students. So and professional, possibly young professionals that will be living in this space. So again, I support this project, and I'm glad we had that time to really put something together that, of course, you don't please everybody, but at least, we talked to a number of people, and we just thought it was a good project, and like I said, I do support the project.
Thanks, Commissioner. Any others? Commissioner Link?
Yeah, I don't doubt this property is definitely ripe for redevelopment. I spend quite a bit of time here. I do a lot of my shopping at Dollar General. And, I took a look at this, and I'll admit, I haven't watched any of the planning commission meetings or been to any of the public meeting, and my first thought was those townhomes seemed to be an afterthought, and it turns out they were. I really would love to see more fee simple housing incorporated into this rather than just mid-rise apartments. I'm kind of heartened that there aren't any folks from the community here in opposition to this, so it seems like, they've done their due diligence in reaching out to folks. I'm a little concerned about the amphitheater as an amenity. It just seems to kind of be like a single-use amenity. I kind of wish it was something that was a little more flexible, or even just field and park space rather than a blank amphitheater, but I understand the topography's rough. It does give me a little pause that it was very much a split vote on the commission, on the planning commission, and that staff recommended denial. I'm definitely going to go back and watch that meeting and try and understand how the planning commission really felt about this, and if there were any public comments at that meeting.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yeah, I would like to ask the developer in the agenda report, there was a statement made that you chose market rate rent because you didn't want undesirables living there. Could you elaborate on who the undesirables are, just so if they're watching, they know that that's not who we want living there?
I don't think that we ever said that because I
It
don't.
wasn't you who said it?
I don't think so. I think it was maybe somebody at the planning commission that maybe took something we said and misunderstood it or something.
Okay.
But we, that, I certainly wouldn't have said undesirables because that's
I was
just
gonna say, honey.
not a word I use.
Oh,
It's outside my vocabulary.
Commissioner Wright?
We're glad that we got that straightened out, aren't we?
we are.
Okay, all right. So much for what we read. Thanks for being here for us to ask. Bruce, you want to give us a little highlight reel, or what, was it the differences in these conditions versus the other conditions for staff's denial?
So, staff's review of this really focused on what PDs are intended for. And our initial analysis of this was there was a path to approval that would be a special use, for example, to allow for the ground floor commercial. And really everything else that was being asked for would have worked by right in the CG zone, other than the ground floor residential. And so the applicant chose the PD route.
Okay.
The PD route is typically something that's used to give relief when you're proposing a use that wasn't anticipated, or there's something unique that you're having to wrestle with that the code has no way of talking to. And the only way to get there is through a PD where you're looking at sort of the uniqueness of the site. And I think that's where they leaned, was the site's unique with the Georgia Power easement that runs through it, and the existing leases that some of the tenants have that are long-term leases. So from a staff standpoint, we were viewing those things, we were looking at the physical and the development aspects.
Right.
And they were bringing to the table more of the business side of things that is really beyond our scope. So that's where we had a difference of review on this. But I'll say, in the 3 instances that the Planning Commission heard it, the discussion was lengthy, thorough, no stone was left unturned, and I think they gave it its due as far as consideration goes.
Gotcha. So, and I'm a big fan of the ground floor residential. So the switch to that was more the interior facing, because you didn't want people, anyway, it was just well-planned versus the whole ground floor not being commercial. Is that how it ended up?
That's how it ended up. And, one of the things I should have noted too, this planned development is on the entire tract.
Yeah.
And really, all that's being redeveloped is a portion of the track. So one of the things that staff kind of came back with our last analysis was perhaps run your calculations off of the part that you're redeveloping and not off the whole. And that way, there's a chance for some residential capacity to be a part of a second phase of redevelopment when the day comes that those leases time out, or when the market catches up and it makes sense. You still have residential capacity to put back on that plan. Again, that was a separation that we had in our analysis of it versus what the applicant was asking for, and ultimately where the planning commission landed.
So some of the differences in approach or the chosen, the PD versus special use, was the phasing? And I didn't see in the packet, it didn't stand out to me what the phasing was.
Correct, and so that was another comment. Essentially, all the areas that are along Homewood Drive to that drive aisle and then to the west, that's all phase one.
Okay.
Phase two, at some point in the future, would be the redevelopment of the existing commercial that's going to be allowed to remain. It is getting a facade treatment, so it's not that it's going to stay exactly as is. It is going to get some aesthetic attention. But the massing, those buildings themselves aren't changing. Tenants may change possibly, but we were led to believe that those long-term tenant leases were going to make that hard. So in looking at that, we ended up with some segregated uses where PDs and our design standards and our comp plan push for integration of uses. So kind of moving the residential in and amongst the commercial in some
Right.
form or fashion, and this really was just pulling it apart.
Okay, so if I go deeper into what the staff report is, am I going to get a better appreciation of this phasing that you're saying?
I think so.
Okay.
Yep.
And then, again, the ground floor, speaking of somebody who has been on crutches for 11 weeks recently, ground floor residential is a good thing. Yeah. Okay, thank you. I'll just reach out after I get a bit more time if I need more understanding of that.
Got Commissioners Myers, Johnson, Culpepper lined up.
Yeah, I did just listen to the planning commission meeting, and they did go on, and I actually was expecting there to be more residents here because there were quite a few residents who were at that meeting. But I'm understanding it better now as well, and that lease agreement, I guess I'm looking at page 27 and 26 of the report here that shows me basically how some of the buildings are going away, but there's this lease restriction. How long is that lease restriction for? I mean, that's part of the thing. Like, is it 5 years, 10 years, 50? I mean, do we know anything about that?
Probably a good question for the applicant.
Yeah.
You want to ask the applicant?
Yeah, sure. Let's ask the applicant.
So you've got a national brand.
Yeah. So I'm not sure exactly what exhibit you're looking at, but if it's the one that has some of the suites in red that are existing.
Yeah, it shows the whole existing site, and it has, sort of a rectangles over this area that says lease restricted, the
Yeah.
place where you're
So
only.
those tenants have control through, there's different suites, so they have different leases, but anywhere from through 2030 all the way through 2037, depending on the tenant and the
Okay.
specific suite. And so, well, those are through their tenant options, so they do control it. There's no way for us to kick them out unless they decide to leave on their own. So that's why, I don't know exactly what design's going to look like in 2037, but we couldn't
Right.
fully commit to a phase two aesthetic or what it's going to look like until we understand exactly when those leases roll and when the phase two is going to occur.
Yeah, okay, thank you, that's helpful. So and that little building in the front that's along Homewood Drive, is that going away, the one?
No, so
No,
that's
that's not-
that's what Commissioner Fisher was speaking about, that La Paria is going to be moving
Oh, it's going to
that
move there,
space.
okay, I missed that move in there, thank you, that's helpful. So here with this, I mean, this isn't necessarily for you, this is because the planning commission spent a long time talking about how, because it wasn't a PD for the whole site, that all the housing was going over here on the left, and when you got to this place where you can get to phase two, when it happens, you wouldn't be able to put any housing there, because you will have used up all the housing, allotted housing, allowances, right? Is that correct?
Other than making use of inclusionary zoning to by right bring some units forward in that way, but all the units then would need to be inclusionary zoning satisfying
Okay.
units.
Based on the current CG model.
Correct.
Right, so if that changed, but someone could make an argument to change it a little bit. So now I understand better. I wasn't looking at the picture when I was listening to the Planning Commission. So basically, you're taking half, well, those other FAR buildings and turning a third of the site into all the housing, and then have it'd be like if you're, it could end up being Beechwood, where all of the housing is on one side. I'm making this in this make-believe world, and you have this thriving shopping area on the part that's least restricted, theoretically, with those nice trees in the parking lot. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you. I have several questions. The first ones are for Director Malani. You mentioned that when you started your summary that, I'm going to read what I wrote down here. In some respects, it was hard to approve because some of the waivers did not, they just didn't see hardship. What does that mean? And who is this? Who is the they?
They would be the waiver requests. Those, I could have said those instead of they, but those requests, 3 of them, 1, 2, and 6, were ones that we thought, with some adjustments to the plan, could be justified. One, the waiver from required minimum 10% tree canopy to 4%. Ultimately, we ended up with a condition of approval that did address that waiver. 2, the waiver from the requirement that residential units must be on the 2nd floor and above. And ultimately, the Planning Commission landed on a condition that treated those ground floor units that fronted onto the new activated axial drive in between the 100 and 200 buildings. They addressed it through their condition. So that's the kind of thing we were looking for from the applicant, and it ultimately came out in the discussion. And then 6 was the number of parking spaces required. And this is where we were struggling with lease agreements and parking spaces not being available by terms of a lease agreement, but it appeared they were being counted as possible for residential uses. So we were looking for a little more clarification on 6 regarding parking. Ultimately, the Planning Commission wasn't concerned about that. Items 3, 4, and 5, those waivers, we were really kind of struggling with. The maximum block size of 3 acres is a standard that we use to try to break up projects and make their scale work, be a little more pedestrian friendly, to give you a why.
Yeah, I don't understand hardship. We didn't see the hardship. So
We didn't see how they couldn't do that hardship.
Okay, just how they could complete it.
Correct.
with it.
How could the
Okay,
design not achieve that?
I was so unclear about that.
Yeah.
The next thing I want to ask you about, you made a comment about partially compatible with the 2023 comp plan, and the very next, it wasn't a sentence, it was a comma, you stated, then it is compatible with the 2023 comp plan. Is it, or is parts of it is? Parts
So the
of it
difference
isn't?
between the future land use map, the comprehensive plan, and zoning. So it is partially compatible with the comprehensive plan. So aspects of it, and they were enumerated, so infill development is compatible. What's not compatible is the fact that we're seeing a submittal that is the same sort of housing type that we've seen in other developments. The comprehensive plan is looking for a variety of housing. It's calling for those to be thought through. There are some townhomes proposed, so in all fairness, there is an aspect of this that introduced a new element and a new form of housing. Again, partially compatible. And then the auto-centric development, looking back at that site plan and thinking about how it's really segregated into a high-intensity residential use to the west, and then still kind of a commercial development that's relatively unchanged, other than landscaping, to the east.
Okay. I did attend the very first Planning Commission meeting right after, I walked over there from the budget meeting that we voted on that night. And when I walked in, because I had other items on the agenda in District 6, the discussion for this particular development had just started, and it was standing room only. I stood on the wall for over an hour, and there were about 30, 40 people there from this community and the surrounding communities. And the one thing I remember them communicating so strongly is that why does the development have to start on the side where the residential part is? Why not fix up the Jefferson River Road side, do something with the Chevron, space? And I understand from the developer some of the challenges and the leases, and I get that part. But how did could you share how did those individuals that live around this space get to the place where they accept this? Because I also thought more people would be here. Where they're accepting the Magnolia, was it just the fact that it's not going to be a drive-through, it's just going to be a pedestrian? Was that the thing that worked?
I think that helped. I think the massing of the buildings was also altered so that building 200, the northernmost one, the short side was now facing cottages at Homewood rather than a long side. So it's a smaller looking building from the view of their neighborhood. The developer also had additional architectural information that they shared that I think was received positively. The townhomes certainly were received well. The landscaping was enhanced, and that pedestrian connection was reinforced. So I think all of those things helped.
Thank you.
Commissioner Culpepper?
Yeah, so looking at this, I think there's a lot of positives about it. We've got a shopping center that's been underutilized for several years, and there's several issues with it right now. You've got, I think, 10% tree canopy right now and a failed stormwater management system. So you're increasing, you're getting less impervious area, and then you're also increasing the tree canopy. I guess the requirement's 40%, and they're going to 47%.
Yes, they're.
And then talking about, having the commercial on one side and the residential on the other side, you can't put anything, because they've got those buildings leased out, so they can't touch them. And with, I agree with Commissioner Wright on the ground floor residential. If you look at a lot of these mixed-use developments that have come up around downtown Athens and all around Athens, all the stuff that's commercial on the bottom is vacant, or it keeps turning over and turning over. And I think, allowing them to put residential down there, I appreciate the developer making some concessions. I mean, I would have tried to get the whole thing residential because they're not going to be able to lease that stuff out. But they worked with the community and with staff to try to get it. So, I mean, I think it's a good project.
Commissioner Davenport?
Yes, this is Carter Engineering. If you can come to the east side and work with me with Willowwood Shopping Center, that'd be awesome. So this is beautiful. This is what we need to see more in our community, where we use what we have unused space and we're redeveloping to more park-like, walkable residential space, because this is great use of unused property in Ascot County. It looks really good. My question was for the Plaza. Okay, because we just got finished talking about the noise ordinance, and there's residential right across the street the next door. And, it's going to be, when this phase is getting built out, it's going to be probably heavily used for like concerts and, event space. Is it potential to add fencing, like a 8-foot fencing for just that Plaza area?
Too soon.
Is it possible?
It is possible. I would just note, there's, I think, about a 16-foot drop from the roadbed down into the site. So you probably wouldn't even see the fence if you built one along that back curve of the amphitheater. I think the applicant has stated previously that they're hoping that the sound would be dampened by kind of going into the slope.
Okay.
But I understand your point.
I had another one, but if it comes back to me. But this looks, this looks good.
Got Commissioner Fisher and Link.
Okay, I just want to sort of close it out and echo, and I appreciate my colleagues making comments. And again, I think to Commissioner Culpepper's point, that particular parcel of property, it's been sitting for a number of years. It's becoming an eyesore, actually, to be honest with you, and I appreciate the developer, Carter's coming in and really tried to redevelop that project. And again, and I appreciate you all going to the planning commission, but like I said, we had 8 meetings with people in that community. And yeah, everybody didn't agree with the project. I hadn't been a project I haven't ever been a part of that everybody agreed, but it's the right thing to do. I think it's going from a tax perspective, it's going to generate more taxes, property taxes with the townhouses. So I think it's a really good project, and as a matter of fact, I know it's a good project. And again, I just think that when you're looking at trying to redevelop projects and really trying to get the neighbors involved, I think we went about the right way. We want their input, whether good, bad, or ugly. We want their input. I think we did that. We took the time to meet with everybody. We had, like I said, a number of meetings with that. And again, can't please everybody, but when you got a project, I feel like that property is sort of distressed a little bit. We're trying to uplift. And let me remind everybody, because it's a PD, they could have just came in and did whatever they want to do and not really enhance the property at all. So I just want to add that.
I haven't heard from Commissioner Thornton, and then we'll go to Commissioner Link, and then we'll wrap.
I know that this doesn't look exactly like the project that is further out on Jefferson.
Oak Grove.
Yeah.
Oak Grove.
Yeah, Oak
That
Grove.
is really a beautiful area. I mean, I can't even imagine those single homes that are to your left before you go in and then you go to the, so it's very diverse, and I go to the dentist there now, so that's the only reason. But I was really shocked how beautiful it was, and I didn't hear any complaints. I don't know how long that's even been there, but I have heard no complaints. How many years?
Maybe 2 now.
Really?
Yeah, for 2 years, yeah.
Okay. I haven't heard no complaints, no, it's just beautiful. So I imagine that this is going to have that same kind of look. Now, I don't know about that amphitheater, but we'll be in LRC talking about the noise control, but I do think this is an excellent project, and this is the way we want to go. And having community meetings 8 times, I tell you, I know how that can wear you out, and you just do the best to get the best information. So yeah, unless something really crazy happens, I could see me supporting it.
Commissioner Link?
Yeah, I mean, I want to bring up the amphitheater again, too. We definitely have, like, noise complaint issues, and I don't know what kind of programming is going to be associated with this, but I'd really rather see that space be more multifunctional, the kind of place where you could, like, let your kids run around or go throw a Frisbee or whatever, not just a kind of blank, empty bowl that's only used a few times a year for a concert that might piss off the neighbors if it's too loud.
Well, that was sort of one of the requests, though. I mean, that
They
came-
wanted an
it
amphitheater?
It came out.
Interesting.
And I think from
I mean, the
perspective.
topography it's kind of a no-brainer for something.
Yeah, but let me say this. At least in my mind, I may be wrong. I didn't picture so much of a concert type stuff. To your point, I think we see more people just gathering,
Yeah.
just sort of hanging out. Now it could lead to that, but in my mind, I didn't see just big concerts going on and got bands and stuff.
I mean,
but again-
I wonder if the developer would be open to kind of reimagining that space a little bit to make it a little more multifunctional. Yeah. Can he come up?
Well, I don't know that we're going to design on the floor,
Okay.
but I think your suggestion is heard.
Maybe Commissioner Fisher and I can talk about it some more.
Well, I'll say, and then we'll wrap. I've seen this property in sort of all stages of its life, from vibrant center anchored by Winn-Dixie to one that's got a couple of great tenants, but definitely has gotten rough around the edges. I'm really happy about the notion that you could have not just medical students, but medical professionals who are working in the Hawthorne and Prince corridors right there by their jobs or by their higher education, rather than 5, 10, or 50 miles away. I know a lot of folks who work at the hospital who are having to drive in from far Jackson County or Gwinnett, and so this would be an enormous opportunity. And on the question of the amphitheater, I really read that as a little bit more like the Spanish Steps, where, you know, folks are sort of hanging out and not so much where you're booking a band to play. But anyhow, I appreciate everybody's comments, and we're going to have Bruce move on to number 9, McClung Road.
All right, thank you. So this is the first of one of our two firsts. So this is 2 requests, 1 presentation for 115 McClung Road. The applicant is asking for a rezone of the property, and then in conjunction, should the rezone be approved, they are then asking for a special use permit approval with a variance related to floor area ratio. So we'll walk through this really quickly. The ask is for a rezone of the existing parcel from commercial general and commercial rural, it's a split zone parcel, to employment office. The special use application is predicated on the approval of the rezone, and the reason why they want a special use application is to allow for self-storage as a use in the employment office zone, which was a text amendment that this body approved not that long ago. Variance application then is part of the special use. So rezone, if that's approved, then special use can be heard. If the special use is considered, they're asking for a variance to allow floor area ratio to go from 0.75 to 1. So a 1-to-1 ratio of land area to building area is what they would like in order to accommodate the self-storage development. There is no proposed change to the future land use map classification, which is general business. So here's the property. In McClung Road, we've had this particular new stretch of roadway before you on a couple of occasions recently. This is the next wave. This development sits behind the existing commercial that fronts on Highway 29. The property has a considerable amount of slope. You can see here it's also kind of shallow and long. This property was originally a part of the development when first laid out, but it accommodated that detention pond that you see at the top as well, which is serving multiple properties and is required. So this is trimmed down that area, and the developer has been looking for a use since this development has evolved. Future land use as general business would remain that. And then this shows you the change. We would have kind of a moment of employment office on this otherwise local street that connects to a major corridor. This is the site plan that if the special use were to be approved, this would become binding. There are a handful of notes on the left-hand side of this that may be worth coming back to in a moment, but they are offering a climate-controlled self-storage proposal. It's a multi-story building, I believe 4 stories with levels below grade, street grade, because it does drop away. The challenges for the site that they found to be compelling for asking for the special use is that it's odd-shaped, it has a severe grade change. By their estimation and their market study, it is second-tier commercial land in this area, and it is kind of a remnant parcel is what they've argued, in between some other things that had been master planned. The request then is for that rezone and the special use and the variance. So here's the architecture that was submitted with the application. I would draw your attention to the view on the, let's make sure I get the right one here. To the east, so the upper right-hand corner, that's what you would see from McClung. Below that, to the west, that would be the rear as you drop down into the site. So that shows you the extreme nature of that grade change from front to back on the parcel. Some images that were shared from, I believe, a site in Sugar Hill that the applicant submitted and presented as part of the record at the Planning Commission. This gives a little better sense of the architectural treatment, and this is something that they had indicated would be the architectural treatment that they would use should this be approved. This site also has that grade change. So what you're seeing in the lower left-hand corner is the rear of the property where you could enter into a higher ceilinged conditioned storage space. And then the upper levels that you're seeing in the upper left corner that would be visible from the roadway would be more typical ceiling heights and conditioned space. So the analysis of the rezone, not the special use, but the rezone, was found to be compatible with the comprehensive plan, compatible with the future land use map, zoning map, and the ordinance. Planning Commission recommended approval of the rezone. Regarding the special use analysis, there were questions about compatibility, and what the notes that you're seeing here are the ones from staff. Planning Commission, in their deliberation, kind of wrestled through these things, and they found that the special use could be approved, and their recommendation was for approval, finding that what the applicant was explaining about the site and their market study was compelling. And then the variance analysis, it is a single variance. The variance would not be necessary if it remained CG, because CG allows for more floor area ratio. They can't do the storage in the CG zoning. So they needed the change in zoning to do self-storage, but that put them in a category where they didn't have enough floor area ratio to make a competitive build of the self-storage. So they're asking for that increase from 0.75 to 1.0. The Planning Commission found that to be, they found all 5 variance criteria to be met. There was also special mention made of the extraordinary circumstances of the site. And so they did recommend approval of the rezone, the special use, and the variance requested with the special use.
All right, is there any member of the public who'd like to speak to either component of this submission for 115 McClung Road? Yeah, there's 3 together. Thank you.
Good evening. Eric Johansson, agent for the owner, Lawrenceville Land Holdings, and we are also the property owner of the property behind it that has been previously rezoned by this body for a apartment development. Part of the data that I just dropped off for everybody to see, we did submit a market study, and the market study was done last January. The market study points out there's 15 self-storage facilities within a 5-mile radius. Climate controlled, there's only 150,000 square feet within a 3-mile radius, and the travel distance for climate controlled is a 3-mile radius. Of that 150,000 square feet, 90% of that is occupied. One of the second things that I've passed out in that list is the 15 properties that our market study identified as self-storage. 12 of the 15 are built in commercial zone properties, CG. Our property is zoned CG. If we were allowed to build this use in CG, we wouldn't be asking for a zoning change, we wouldn't be asking for a special use, we wouldn't be asking for a variance to increase the FAR, because the FAR is already allowed as 1.5 for a CG zone property. I'm not going to speculate on what you did, but I think the thought process on that was we don't want to lose prime commercial land for self-storage and other buildable markets. This is a great market, and the reason it's a great market is the third slide, or the third handout that I have for you guys, is there are 5 new residential developments that were not included as part of our market study, and none of those 5 were utilizing any of the 150,000 square feet. Within those 5 uses that are around us, within a half-mile radius of the site, this body and planning development has already approved 1,700 units, 3,500 beds. So none of those 1,700 units and none of those 3,500 beds are accounted for in anybody else's self-storage unless they've gone outside those radiuses, because those radiuses were already filled up. And one other thing to point on our site is Hill Point, which is a prominent developer here in Athens. It has 2 of those projects across the street. They gave us a letter of support stating all the reasons that we stated on why this would be beneficial to the area. So we see this as an ever-changing, growing area. I know that Highway 29 corridor is very important to Athens and the city, as evidenced by everything that's out there. We feel this is a great complementary use for this piece of property, which we inherited when we bought the rest of the land, that has a 16-foot grade change on it, that does not have another reasonable use that can afford to build a basement wall, fill in the site with 50,000 square feet of dirt, and then bring in a commercial use that would be affordable for anybody. Thank you, and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else here to speak to this submission tonight? All right, it's in District 9, Commissioner Thornton.
I guess, did he pass out some?
She wants her hand out.
Something for later review.
It may help everybody to look at it, Kelly, but I do support this 100%. I do think this gives me another reason why we need to look at our zoning. I think that having to actually have to come before us, this is the 3rd time? This is the third, not for this piece, but he's been here before. But where this property, if you go behind Wendy's on 29, it's the back street. So it's not in the shopping area. There's a street there. And so as far as traffic or any other inconvenience, this would not interfere. In that district on 29, I have I have at least 4 new developments, multifamily residents. It's not student-oriented, so, but there's a need for this storage facility because of the growth in Athens. I think this will generate our tax base. I don't know if Kelly remembers when a gentleman tried to sell us, the local government, a piece of that property, and we didn't buy it. But I do think that if you go down north on 29, it's just booming right now. And I do think that the time and energy that Eric has spent on this, and he took me out and we walked down the little slope, so it doesn't interfere, and it's behind the restaurants. There's a little street there. So I do support it. I suggest if there's, I always tell you guys, I try to do my homework ahead of time, but if you want to go and look at what I'm talking about, there's nothing else that can be built in that area unless you pile it up with dirt to level it out. It's nothing else that can go there. So that's my
Thanks, Commissioner.
Statement.
Commissioner Wright?
Yeah, Bruce, I have a question in the report. It talks about a rezone and the special use, but the agenda only has one vote. When it comes to us, do we not have the 2 different votes?
You have 2 items on your agenda for
They're
this
back to
address.
back.
Well, if I would look down, and then
It's item 9.
10 is going to be the other part of this.
There
So
it
that
is.
means we're moving on to 11, right?
That will
This
be
was
our
the twofer.
next
That was my promise.
And I'm
I was
glad,
not paying attention back
sorry.
then. That was so long ago. Okay, thank you.
but Allison, I'm glad you
get
said
it.
that because that was the point that I think he was making about some changes that we've done. If this had been traditional, it would have been just one vote. It would not have to go through a special permit. And I am going to talk to Bob about this because I hate rezones, period, but I am going to talk to Bob about this because our job, well, staff's job and our job is try to bring in economic development opportunities, but not at the expense of, people not, having problems doing business with us. So I did promise Mr. Eric that I would be talking to Bob, but it's a good, it's some extra work, but we got to vote
Well,
twice.
no, I get it. It's the 2 agenda items. I'm clear on it now. We got the 2 votes happening simultaneously, and then we'll just jump to 11. I'm good.
Commissioner Myers?
Yeah, again, I listened to all this discussion with the back and forth with the Planning Commission, and was remembering, I think it was right when I joined the commission that or right before, that we made this a special use request. And I know it's inconvenient, but if I remember, that was about the time we were looking at a mini storage over there by Southeast Clark Park, and there's a lot of mini storages there. And in this case, it might be the perfect place. But I was just hearing something on the radio as well about how investors use storage areas as an easy investment for real estate because it's so easy it doesn't take a lot to put them on there, and then when it comes to another time, you can change them. So, for various reasons, I think there are good reasons for not making it as easy to put self-storage units in place. So I'm not sure I really want to go about changing that, because we don't want we want that redevelopment that Commissioner Davenport was talking about over in that catty corner to Lowe's on the east side, and not more storage development. But this one kind of makes sense from everything I've heard.
Yeah, and everybody's memory is correct. When we made the modification in our zoning code, it was recognizing that most of our CG properties really do front on corridors.
Yeah.
And what we didn't want was the self-storage right up on the corridor. This is something of a unique property, and so I certainly understand the applicant's interest in it. And yet, to Commissioner Meyer's point, the numbers run on self-storage. Anything else, Commissioner Davenport?
I'm just wondering, can I get my computer? I always want to update when we're having a meeting. Anyway, so this is 2 acres, right? Could RM2 fit in 2 acres? Could we do inclusionary zoning for some housing for this area? Because there's some housing next door to it, and there's some housing in the back. I was just wondering, if the, not just, I'm just thinking out loud with the.
The inclusionary zoning chart does include CG as kind of
Yeah.
one of the allowable places where you get the density bonus, if that kind of is what you're thinking about.
But not EO.
But not EO, okay. And the masking, I guess that's the right, the height side is 65 feet tall on the front end of maximum density. What would be the maximum height for an RM2, which will be to the left and to the right?
For the RM2, I believe.
Would it be more, don't, you can email. Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm positive.
Yeah, I'll send that to you. It would be less than what EO allows for.
Because I'm just saying, like, I like, I'm not against this project, but when you look at scale, when you drive by, you got Wendy's, you got Bojangles, which I shop at all the time, and at O'Reilly's. Is it O'Reilly's or, yeah. and like, you have this height size, and then you're gonna have this storage facility sitting off in the back that's gonna be higher than the restaurants, and it just, I'm all about aesthetics and how things look when, but anyway, I'm just trying to figure out what's the height side.
I can answer 2 questions maybe
Go ahead.
then. The RM zoning allows for RM1 is a 30-foot maximum height, RM2 is a 35, and RM3 is 40. So you have, it gets taller as the zone gets more dense. The proposal here, and that would be binding if approved, is essentially a 2-story front towards the road and a 4-story back. It takes into account the lot in the site. So what you see from the road is not going to be anywhere near what EO would allow for, or CG for that matter. CG is a 65-foot building height.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Commissioner
So I do want to, what you said we see from the road, that's the top of the building, not in that slope, right, Bruce?
From the road, you'll see the short side of the building because it'll be a level roof all the way across to the back. And because the site drops, you'll have about a 4-story.
That's what I'm talking, because it drops.
Yep.
Yeah, I just wanted to make that clear. And I personally do not like self-storages. I think that we should be building houses for folk. Folk can live in some of these storage places. They're so comfortable, some of them. But this it's in a good place, it's unique, and it's not on the front of a corner or on the main, like a main corner of a thoroughway. It's back, so you don't have something awkward on the main street.
Commissioner Wright?
I think that the storage unit necessity does help people in their housing transitions. We have people who have to leave one lease, put their things in a storage unit to pick up on their next lease. It's the kind of thing that the different students, especially in the medical school, they have to leave a certain housing and go live somewhere else for a little bit. And also people who don't have a garage to fill. I mean, most people, there's not a vehicle in the garage, it's stuff. And so the market for this and the climate-controlled ones is there, and I think that this is a great use of this terrain, unique terrain that's in this property, and it looks like it's very secure, so it's definitely what I would call 21st century storage versus the ones that are more problematic by our new Kroger gas, on the east side. The ones I'm talking about where it looks like a bunch of garage doors.
Old school ones.
Yeah, that's not the way that is typically advantageous anymore. This is quite the direction of it, and it's not outrageously large like some of the other ones that I've seen. So I look forward to supporting both 9 and 10 on the agenda.
All right, Bruce, you going to do us another twofer
I
on
am
11
gonna
and
do
12?
another. Yes, sir.
God, loving it.
All right, so the next two requests, item 11 and 12, are 250 Little Street A208 and A303. These are two units similarly placed in the Cars Hill neighborhood. The request is a special use in the RM2 zone for each of these condominium units, and it shouldn't say 3. So let me point out, let me go back. This started out as 3 that the applicant came through with. In the floor of the meeting, following discussion with Planning Commission, the applicant asked to withdraw their request for B306, and that was voted on by the Planning Commission and granted, so it is just A208 and A303. So the request is to convert 2 individual condominium units to commercial short-term rental, 208, 303. Occupancy proposed at each is no more than 4 individuals each, because each of these units is a 1-bedroom unit. Here's an aerial view of the site. As I noted, this is on the Cars Hill neighborhood. It is adjacent to the Oconee Hill Cemetery to the south. Future land use across all is mixed-density residential. The zoning on the property is RM2, as is most of Cars Hill, although the cemetery is less dense at RM1. And then coming back to this aerial view, it does kind of give us a chance to see a little bit better, a little more frequent, a little more recent view, proximity to the river. This is kind of nestled into Cars Hill. It doesn't have direct frontage on any large right-of-way, heavily trafficked corridors, but does have access to the greenway, which gets you to campus. So here's A208's location, and then the courtyard view of the same second floor unit. And then A303, third floor unit, outside courtyard view. Staff's analysis is similar to what we've been able to provide on similar requests. So incompatible with the 2023 comprehensive plan due to its removal of housing from the market. Compatible with future land use zoning and the ordinance, but it doesn't meet the special use criteria, and those STR ordinance purpose statements are in conflict. And so we've been consistent with that analysis. Planning Commission, after considerable discussion again and talking through the particulars with the applicant, found that it didn't contradict those STR ordinance purpose statements. They were looking specifically at the design history of the complex, and I can tell you what they meant by that in just a minute. The 1-bedroom unit format, so this was not, in their estimation, the type of short-term rental that was going to have a high occupancy and create perhaps a problem for the other tenants. It's a more modest use in their estimation. And that the location was the type of location that was probably anticipated when this ordinance was first developed. The design history of the complex. So this is not a new build. This is a property that has gone through some cycles, life cycles, and the current ownership group, as the applicant conveyed in their testimony, noted that the short-term rental opportunity that came into this building made possible the restoration of the complex overall and brought up the quality and was allowed for some deferred maintenance to be addressed. And so that was found to be compelling by the Planning Commission. They found that approval of these applications in this instance does not represent a negative impact. And so they are recommending approval of both requests for both units.
All right, is there anyone else here to speak to Little Street? evening.
Hello, I'm Wendy Kressel, and live at 190 Hickory Point Drive, Athens. And these are just 2 units that we have that they are in a building that is in this complex that was originally designed as an alumni building. So it was essentially designed for short-term use. In fact, the bylaws of the association indicate that you cannot rent it for periods longer than 7 days. And so we have been operating this as a short-term rental previously. We did try to go through the licensing, but then, of course, that didn't turn into a thing here in Athens. So we're trying to go this route now. Anyway, it has, we've had lots of positive reviews over time, hundreds of them, really. And it doesn't interfere with the neighborhood because it was designed to be this way. This building was designed for this purpose. So it's not full all the time, that it's perceived as a kind of an alumni building, and people that are there kind of short-term anyway. And so the short-term rentals do provide something for guests that are coming to Athens that sometimes hotels don't provide. Like, if you have a kitchen, that helps out if you've got small kids or dietary restrictions. So there should be some way to accommodate that. And again, because they are 1 bedroom, they're very small, so it's not likely to be a party scene. It's just 1 bedroom, 1 bath that we're talking about. So I hope you will agree with the previous commission and approve. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Krasel. Is there anyone else here to speak with us tonight? All right, through the magic of map making in Atlanta, this is now in District 8.
That's right. And I went over and visited this area yesterday, and saw that actually, if we go back to that picture where that apartment is, back to the map, little map there, yeah, just where I was, right in that corner. There's actually a path. I didn't go down it yesterday, but you can see how quick it is to get down to the Greenway. And I listened to this discussion with the commission, the Planning Commission as well, and sort of come around to their thinking of this as well. I do have a question for the applicant, and it may be in here, but just to make sure I understand. This, historically, this was for alumni. I mean, right, but now it's anyone. And the other thing I noticed is that you all talked about the HOA and how the long-term, the people who are renting, like you all, are very involved in the HOA and keeping the building up and such. And then I went in there and I noticed that all of these are they're all owned by different people all over the place. So in terms of the development being sold, the developer, whoever came in, because you mentioned that at the planning meeting, whoever would have to buy them all, right? There. But people rent them to, I would imagine, it looked like there was a student going in there who I tried to speak with, but I think his ears were filled with earbuds, who was going in there. So right now I would assume that there are students and others living in that building.
It is a mix. The 3 buildings from right to left, those 3 are not alumni building, and the bylaws differentiate between those buildings and the quote alumni building. So those were intended to be more owner-occupied or long-term lease. Even now, long-term leases are prohibited in this building.
Long-term meaning?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bruce.
Yeah.
Thank you. Over 7
Long-term
days.
meeting.
Over 7 days.
So this building is set up,
Is the original short-term rental building in Athens.
okay, right. However, there's only 2 legal non-conforming STRs in this building, according to the information I got, so I'm not sure what's happening with all those other ones, but maybe they are being leased. But anyway, that's fine. We don't have to worry about that right now, but that
Several-
makes sense to me.
Several of them are owned by alumni who use it themselves
Oh.
for games.
True, that's a good idea. Okay, and so I'm going to be supportive of this, but I do want to clarify something. That's all I have for you here. There, thank you. So, but I do want to clarify something because we have the other text amendment we're looking at. This is legal non-conforming. So even in this case, if we pass the next text amendment and one of those alumni couldn't even apply for this because it would be not a permitted use at all, is that correct? If we pass the next one?
If the text amendment that we're going to talk about in a minute were to pass as written, a new application would follow those rules, after adoption. But between now and then, somebody could make a request.
Right, so it's not going to be, those new rules would
If this
make
was
it.
passed, it wouldn't be immediately
It wouldn't be, like,
validated.
it couldn't be all of them, because if that one passes, we wouldn't have tons of applications. And that was just me, I understand where we are right now, okay? But we're also looking at this other thing in 10 minutes, so, I'm just trying to get the two items together. The text amendment that would make it a non-allowed use in an RM zone, that text amendment. But right now, even when we pass that, it still is in that category of non-conforming, which is in flux category.
For this particular property owner, because they've made application,
Right.
they're working with the rules that are on the books today.
Right. I'll ask the other question when we get to the other one. I'm good with this here. It makes sense here, and I appreciate how the owners have also taken one of the other, they had 3 applications to begin with and removed one, so that one will still be available for rent, long-term rent.
Anyone else? All right, we're going to move on to item 13.
Okay.
Almost done, Bruce.
I know. 3 more. All right, so item 13 involves 3 properties on Hull Road. This is a rezone request. The request is to rezone from commercial rural to commercial general. Future land use out there would not change. General business accommodates both zoning categories. The purpose is to rezone for an unspecified commercial use, although the applicant has suggested that it could likely be a combination of restaurant and retail. This site is adjacent to another site to the southwest of these 3 parcels that had a similar request not that long ago, and it is coming to you with a condition of approval proposed that is similar to that piece as well. But here you see it's on the north side of Hull Road, formerly residential property. As that intersection continues to grow and change and be built out, there's increased interest in development potential adjacent to the new mixed-density residential that you have to the north and the growing business interests coming from the west. So this would be the future land use remaining unchanged, and this would show what the zoning would look like if approved. This is a straight rezone request, but this is a depiction of the property. And staff's analysis found that it was compatible with the comprehensive plan, compatible with future land use map, zoning map, and ordinance. Development in this area has changed considerably since sewer expansion has been brought to the intersection, and the request fits those patterns. The adjacent parcels along Hull Road are similar in use and similar in circumstance. So there was a recommendation for approval with a condition. Planning Commission agreed with that condition, and that is that land disturbance permits shall not be issued without a viable sanitary sewer connection per the standards of the Utilities Department, Public Utilities. That is the wording that they gave us with the adjacent parcel to the west. There is a way to engineer that connection, but what Public Utilities is just making it clear that that connection needs to be there before any kind of land disturbance can be permitted.
All right, thanks, Bruce. Is anyone here to speak to this submission?
Hey, good evening. My name's Frank Pittman with Pittman and Greer Engineering at 1050 Barber Creek Drive in Watkinsville. I'll try to be quick. As Bruce mentioned, this is 3 existing parcels, total about 1.5 acres. The current zoning is CR, and as you all know, CR was really that way for a long time in areas that didn't have sewer. There is sewer out there now. The property right next door was rezoned earlier this year to CG, just the same. This kind of backs up to that Tally Crossing property and is adjacent to what would eventually be that future connection to Tally Crossing. The owner has had some discussion with a potential restaurant that would like to come out there, which would be very good for all the residential that was talked about earlier that is in the area. They do have water and sewer capacity. The condition that is mentioned, what that really means is sewer doesn't front the property. It is one parcel over. There is a platted easement through that property to get to the sewer. So they just want to make sure that we know we've got to run a sewer extension, but the easement's in place, it's not a problem. Staff has recommended approval, and we'll make a quick note that it does meet the future land use map. The existing zoning does not meet the future land use map, so that this actually would bring that into compliance with that. Planning has recommended approval, and so has the Planning Commission, and would hope you guys would consider the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pittman. Is there anyone else here to speak to this tonight? All right, seeing none, this is in Magic District 9.
Hey, I guess I have a question. When did we install the sewer in that area? How long ago?
I mean, it has been extended by developers and accepted by Athens-Clarke County.
Oh,
So it hasn't been the county actually extending the sewer mains, it's been developers doing it to our specifications, and then we accept that infrastructure as part of the development. And that's been ongoing ever since, in large degree, ever since the Kroger development. It's really been moving fairly quickly as far as extending sewer and water into that area.
okay. This one I'm going to think about because I'm getting different messages. Nothing bad, Mr. Pittman, nothing bad. Just going to do my homework. But let me get with you on that one, okay?
And you might remember Commissioner Thornton, that parcel just to the west, closer to Kroger, kind of had a very similar request for public utility.
And I'm dealing with another situation that does not have sewer in that area. Well, that's what they told me, so maybe it's just a connect thing, but it sounds okay right now.
Anyone else? All right, if everybody's ready, we get to return to the favorite. Oh, no, we're not quite there yet.
No, not quite.
Smithsonian Road first. I was teeing up everybody's favorite, but we've got one more. 255 Smithsonian Road.
So this is item 14. This is a unique request. We don't often see requests that involve property that straddles Athens-Clarke County and the city of Winterville, but this one does. So this is a rezone request for 255 Smithonia Road. The parcel is a 71-acre parcel that you'll see in just a second, and the applicant is asking to only rezone that portion that is in Athens-Clarke County on the northern end. There's currently AR zoning on this with a condition. That condition reverts back to a very old conditional use permit regarding development of a mobile home on the property. That dates back to prior to unification. The future land use would remain rural with this request. The 30 acres that they are interested in is what's being listed by the property owner for sale. The owner is looking to subdivide this property, but has not done that yet. And the 30 acres on the northern end would what would be changed to commercial rural for the purpose of building a church. So this shows you the property. This extends just to the north of the jurisdictional boundary of Winterville. The development that you're seeing on the bottom edge of this property in the 41 acres that's not part of the ask, that's where you see the structures that exist. There's one modest structure on the lower edge of the 30 acres that's outlined in blue, but that area in blue is what the church is interested in purchasing and rezoning. Here you can see the future land use shows it as rural. And this depicts what the rezone would look like if approved. So you'd have a moment of commercial rural zoning in this area off of Charlie Bolton Road that is currently addressed off of Smithonia, but it would be accessed, the church property would be accessed off of Charlie Bolton Road. And then this is the plat that's in review right now. This has not been recorded at this time, but this shows you the 4 parcels that the property owner is considering. Tracks 1 and 2 equal that 41 acres that have some or all of their acreage in Winterville. That's not part of this discussion. The northern 2, tracks 3 and 4, are. Staff's analysis is that this request is compatible with the comprehensive plan. The requested use is in line with several objectives in the comprehensive plan. Compatible with future land use map, zoning map, and ordinance. It is a departure from the surrounding zoning classifications, but it is still consistent with the rural character. So staff's recommendation was for approval. Planning Commission recommendation, after a good bit of comment and a good bit of discussion, they were able to recommend approval, but with 3 conditions. First, that the approved use shall be limited to a church function only. That was largely in response to some concerns that were raised about what other uses commercial rural zoning might allow for by right. Second condition, the lighting standards for the AR zone shall be applied to the subject area of the rezone. Lighting levels for commercial rural, where they exist in other places, are things like lumber yards off of Highway 29 or some of the commercial nodes that we have down at South Millage. Lighting levels are higher for commercial rural zoning. So the Planning Commission suggested and recommended that the AR lighting levels, which are very modest, be a condition of approval. And that the lot coverage for the subject area of the rezone, so again, we're talking about a 71-acre parcel, so they're trying to focus this condition on a 30-acre piece that doesn't exist as a parcel yet. So that subject area of the rezone, they're suggesting a condition of capping the lot coverage at 20%. AR allows for 10%, CR allows for, I believe, 30, 35. In discussion with the applicant felt confident that 20% would be sufficient for the needs of the church. So this was a condition that was proffered by the Planning Commission and ultimately recommended for approval.
Thanks, Bruce. Is there anyone else here to speak to this submission tonight? Good evening.
Hi, I'm Kristen Owens at 760 Charlie Bolton Road. So basically, this property butts up right to my property. And I was not against the idea of a church being there when it was told to me it was going to be a rural church. But the more I looked into the Connections Church and the other churches that they have made, I don't know if y'all have gotten them yet or not. I made a packet for everybody, the pictures. And there's no site plan for it. But the idea of what they're calling a church is a rural church is nothing like they have done anywhere else they have put a church. It is basically a community center for people who are outside of the Winterville area basically they're going to come in and disrupt everything around them for a bunch of people who don't even live in Athens, Clark County. And if you see the pictures that I put up there, you can get an idea of what the church looks like. And it looks like a warehouse, a huge warehouse. It's 28,000 square feet they're asking for. And with their parking lot, that's up to 4.5 acres of coverage. That is more, if you look at the picture up there at the top, right above the blue line, that's my pasture with my horses. And that is like 6 acres. So they're asking for almost that amount to be covered with church and parking lot. So I am asking either that they come down on the size that they want quite a bit or to not come in there at all. And hopefully the packet will explain anything else.
Thank you, Ms. Owens.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here to speak to this submission tonight? Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Chase Esch, 330 Research Drive. I'm with Armor Matheny Thurman, representing the church, who's our client. And I want to appreciate the fervor at the planning, the staff level, and also the commission level, working through some of these issues that were presented. And the conditions, I think, represent the primary concerns very well. And we are acceptable to those conditions. I think it does a good job of getting the church a little bit more wiggle room in a zoning that they can do their church functions by right. The 20% coverage is something that is not anticipated at the beginning, but gives wiggle room if the church is to grow and phase out over time. That could be necessary. The other concern with lighting standards, it is significantly reduced. We look at intensities, your foot candles at entries and signs and things like that, which again, we can work with to get that designed in with our photometric plan, which will all be reviewed by staff when time comes. The other thing that was brought up substantially was this project. This parcel is in kind of the green belt of Athens. The trees. We love our trees, and I'm a Clark County resident myself, and so the rezoning from AR to CR would actually require canopy coverage to be maintained. The AR is 0-0, which is 0 conserved, 0 total, whereas CR has minimum conserved and minimum totals at, excuse me here, let me make sure I get it right. It's, CR is 60% total canopy with 30% conserved. So that would have to be maintained through this project. So it is a 20% coverage, but at least 60% would have to be trees. Really kind of keeping with that green belt tree area. So I thank you for your time, and I'm here for any questions or concerns from here.
Thank you, Mr. Ash. Is there anyone else here tonight to speak to the Smithsonian Road proposal? Good evening.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Annie Cheatham, and I live at 801 Charlie Bolton Road. I own the property on the other side of this. And I assume most of you have been out to Winterville in the last few years. It isn't big or fancy, but it has a lot of character. It has a farmer's market now, the Firefly Trail, and quaint areas at the depot. Aside from homes, there are very few buildings that are over 1 story. Essentially, this rezone is asking to put a boxy warehouse-type structure with a large parking lot covering 6 acres within a stone's throw of Winterville city limits. At the Planning and Zoning meeting, it was said that Winterville didn't have any objections to a church, but I don't think anyone understood the type of building that would cover this lot. There's a difference between a county church out in a cow field and what I believe this church wants to build on this land. Charlie Bolton is one of the few rural corridors left in Athens, Clark County. There are no streetlights, no sidewalks, and no commercial activity, only farmland and large lot homes. Look at the satellite image. People choose to build and live out here because it offers peace, dark skies, and beautiful land. Under the current zoning, the land can support low-density residential use, which fits the area and preserves the rural environment. There's no compelling reason to introduce a CR zoning into this corridor, especially on a parcel this large. This is not a minor adjustment. This is a request to rezone 30-acre tract to something commercial. That is not in the spirit of the Greenbelt. Though through the satellite and the connection website, we can see the other style buildings that these campuses have. You guys have some photos from one of our other neighbors. Large box-shaped buildings that don't reflect rural architecture or the character of Winterville. The Connection Church in Statesboro looks more like Crossroads Church on Lexington Highway across from Walmart than it does for Winterville First Methodist. And we don't know what this one will look like. There's no draft or preliminary design for the site. The applicant was clear that the rezoning is needed first to expedite the land purchased, with plans to come later. That creates a lot of uncertainty for a rezone of this scale. Finally, the zoning conditions do not remove one of our core concerns, that once you rezone a 30-acre lot, the precedent is set. That's how Greenbelt corridors are lost, not all at once, but through one large exception that opens the door for the next. Every remaining large acre tract will have an incentive to seek a similar rezone when it comes time to sell, because they're going to see that patch of pink on the aisle now. Now it's all it'll be all one. It's all green right now, but once you put that pink in there, somebody's going to say, "Look, I can ask for that exception in that area. They've got a 30-acre exception. I want to be out there too." So, like many of my neighbors, I've invested my home in the Greenbelt, believing that the zoning would protect the rural character of the area. For these reasons, I expect you to uphold the existing zoning and deny this request. take a detour out to Winterville this week, drive down Charlie Bolton. You're going to drive through trees and nothing else. You're not going to see a place for a big boxy church.
Thank you, Mr. Cheatham. Is there anyone else here to speak to this tonight? Good evening.
My name is Mary Ann Cheatham. I live at 775 Charlie Bolton Road, and with my daughter and her husband, we own the property directly across from the 30-acre tract. That's my house up in the left hand. We purchased our property almost 20 years ago, shortly after the Green Belt was initiated. It's a perfect example of the success of the Green Belt. My son-in-law is Roger Hilton, who is a professor of engineering at UGA. He couldn't be here because of class, and he raised some concerns that he wanted me to share. His first concern, environmental runoff. Charlie Bolton Road crosses Bachiga Creek, Sulphur Springs branch, past the lower end of this property. In 2009, 2016, 23, and 24, the water crested the road. Each of these events corresponded to a 500-year flood event, each with rainfall totals approaching over 5 inches. After the catastrophic flood in 23, the culvert had to be rebuilt, taking over 6 months. During this time, the road was impassable. In 24 storm, the water crested the culvert again, causing more damage that required repairs. A road crossing downstream on Melton Road was also destroyed in the 2023 flood. Adding additional impervious surface in this small watershed will only exacerbate the flooding potential and the potential for catastrophic road failure and property damage. This plan projects an additional 6 acres of impervious surface to be added to the watershed. The 5 inches of rain that fell in each of these flood events would have generated an additional 109,000 cubic feet of water reaching this small creek. All right, second concern, environmental groundwater. Rain falling on the planned 6 acres of impervious surface no longer replenishes the local aquifer that supplies many residents along Charlie Bolton with well water. An average of 52 inches of rain falls in Winterville each year. The 6 acres of impervious surface means that over 1 million cubic feet of water no longer make it through the soil aquifer. We depend on this groundwater. Not only will rain not fill the aquifer, but it will also not fill the streams connected to the property in question. Water will bypass the headwaters and the soil infiltration. If water does not make it to the west side, if it does make it to the west side of Charlie Bolton, it will likely be carrying pollutants from the parking lot, including fuel and oil. His third concern, rural character. The chart cited the rural character of the site and surrounding area as a selling point. I would argue that the rural character degrades after the structure is complete. What remains will derive from the neighboring properties. This structure takes the rural character from us while giving none.
Thank you, Mr. Cheatham. Appreciate it. 3 minutes has expired.
All right, excuse me?
Your 3 minutes is up. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Appreciate it.
That was the end.
Anyone else here tonight to speak to Smithsonian Road? Seeing none, we'll come for discussion, and Commissioner Taylor, this is in District 3.
So thank you for the residents that came out and spoke out. To the resident that I met earlier today, thank you for the packet of information that you delivered. A lot of us, I think I'm the only one that got the packet that you delivered today. When I sat down, there was already a packet, so my colleagues only have the one. So right now, at this particular moment, I don't really have a comment. I'm grateful that you guys all came and spoke out about this issue, as well as for the developer wanting to be in Winterville. So yeah, I'll be reaching out to you to speak more. Also walking the area as well.
Other input on this? Commissioner Myers?
Yeah,
I read this, and like our first neighborhood speaker out there, I first thought it was a rural church, a small rural church, not a problem. But when I see this as a mega church with a gigantic parking lot, that's a big problem. This is in the green zone. This is, and I know it's not a popular thing in this city hall here, but I am one of those bike riders that rides out on that road. I'm very familiar with that area. This would drastically change this. Now, some people might say, hey, you supported that firehouse. This is a much, much, much larger structure and not an emergency response item. And that's vital for the community. So to me, it's a very different situation here. And so this is just that picture, and I did do a little research here for the church in other places. This to me looks like Athens Church, which is a great Christmas service that I went to, but it's that is not what I'm seeing in the rural areas when I go past the church on Morton Road and other places that sort of fit in with the rural character. This looks more like a place that I would see on Highway 29 or in a repurposed mall area. And so, I'll look into it more, but it's my gut reaction is not positive for this space.
Commissioner Davenport?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Myers. I love my churches, but I love my green spaces as well. It's a great place for sanctuary, animals, people, relaxation. And one of the commenters stated that it is true. I've seen it my 8 years being here. Once you change a zone, the neighboring property is going to change too, and you just don't want to disrupt the characteristics of Winterville in that area because we want to preserve that. The aesthetics, like when I come to said, people do move out to this area because they want that quality of life. And I support that.
Anyone else? All right, now we get to the holiday gift that we've all been waiting for, the short-term rental ordinance.
All right. So this last item is a text amendment. In your packets, you received a memo that summarized what this is doing, and that's what I'm going to present largely. I'm happy to get into the wording of the actual amendment that also was in the packet, if you wish, but I was just going to present the summary. The really two aspects of what we're talking about here, there's two features. The short-term rental ordinance, when we met as a group, we kind of broke the issue into two things. In the short term, we were going to bring to you a text amendment that dealt with the special use requirement for commercial short-term rentals. In the process of working through some language on that, we also recognized that our current definition of home occupation short-term rental needed some work. So we have that as part of this proposal. I will note that the text amendment's related to the sunsetting period for the legal non-conforming short-term rentals. That is going to be held, and that discussion is going to come later. What was anticipated, that discussion would be done during consideration of a possible licensing approach for short-term rentals, and that there might be some connectivity between those two topics. And so those things are in development. The licensing approach is in development and would be scheduled for a later date. So what you have before you tonight is just those two things, a change, a refinement in the short-term rental home occupation definition, largely to clarify, in fact, entirely to clarify, that home occupations of all sorts that are allowable can happen in individual dwelling units in a multifamily development. What does that mean? Yes.
Different apartments.
Each apartment can have a home occupation. And so we had a kind of a disconnect in the wording that was making it inconsistent. This brings consistency to that regulation. The second part deals with special use permit requirements. And coming out of the work session, the directive we heard was to revisit that and slot those commercial short-term rentals, the ones that are only used commercially. There is no owner occupant, there is no long-term tenant in that variety of short-term rental, to make them either permitted or not permitted. And so The proposal that you have is that permitted outright in our employment office zone, commercial short-term rentals, everything in yellow on the screen is unchanged from current code. So I just want to point that out. So that's how it's written today. Permitted with limitation. So in our institutional zone, they're allowed right now with the limitation that essentially that short-term, that commercial short-term rental use has to be related to the institution operating on the site. So if the hospital were to have a commercial short-term rental for out-of-town visitors, it would be associated with the hospital's institutional zoning. The AR zoning, now this is seeing a change. Right now, we have AR zoning as a special use, and what's being proposed, and actually this body has approved one commercial short-term rental as a special use. That was the very first one that came before you, out off of Highway 29, just north of Athens Christian. But in the AR zone, what's proposed is that they would not be permitted in the AR neighborhoods, and we talked about this last meeting with some of our standards. The AR neighborhoods are those platted subdivisions in the AR zone. So Shoal Creek Farms, Bar H Estates, those are AR neighborhoods. Commercial short-term rentals would not be permitted. The home occupation version would be, but not the commercial form. And in the AR zone, you could do them as long as you are outside of an AR neighborhood. That's the proposal. In all of the C zones, they would be permitted, and there's a limitation in there essentially about how they would operate, which is one accommodation per dwelling unit. That's how the code is written today. You can have commercial short-term rentals in our 5 commercial zones. Where they are not permitted, all of the RS variations, the single-family residential, commercial short-term rentals are not allowed today, and that is not changing. In our industrial zone, not allowed today, it's not changing. However, what is changing is RM1, RM2, RM3, and our light industrial, our EI zone. Those are all today special use approval requirements for commercial short-term rentals, and what's proposed is to have those not be permitted for commercial short-term rental. But going back to what I said before, the home occupation opportunity is still available for commercial short-term rental in the RM zones. So owner-occupant, long-term resident, they could come through the process administratively and get approval. So that's, in summary, what's in front of you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Let me make sure I open up for public comment. All right, hearing crickets, we'll come for discussion. We've got Commissioner Culpepper. Link.
So in multifamily, it's permitted
As a home occupation.
as a home, but not as a commercial.
Correct. That's the proposal. Now, it is permitted today, but as a special use, and that's what you heard earlier this evening.
So it's not, commercial is not permitted in multifamily then?
On this one.
Presently, commercial short-term rentals in this proposal would not be permitted.
Commissioner Link.
Yeah, so in the RS zones, it's still permitted as a home occupation. If you live in the property, you can rent a room out.
Correct.
Or a basement apartment or something. Okay.
I just
Commissioner Davenport.
Just got one question about dwelling. So like when it says single-family dwellings, that'll be the home, or would that be that'd be the home, correct?
So
Is that definition of dwelling?
For a home occupation version of short-term rental, the property owner has to pick. Are they gonna do it in the main house? Or if they have an accessory, if they have a guest house that was built according to code and everything's fine, they can operate there, but that means they can't operate in the main house. They have to pick where that one unit, where that one short-term rental listing is gonna be.
Okay, so confusion for me. Go to the 952 permitted uses. So under single-family dwellings is permitted. Accessory dwelling units is L4. Explain the L4.
So in the AR zone, you can have an accessory dwelling unit, like a fully independent another house essentially, but you have to have, the L4 says you have to have double the acreage. So the minimum lot size in AR is 10 acres. The way our code is written today, to have an accessory dwelling unit, you need to have a minimum of 20 acres to do it.
So what it's saying that if it's not that, it's still permitted? No, not permitted. Special use?
So there would be no special, the way this is proposed, there would be no special use.
Okay.
And the only way you could do a commercial, so let me start with home occupation short-term rental.
That's allowed. I got
That would be allowed.
Yeah,
You get-
got it.
For the commercial short-term rental, the only way that you can do it is in AR, but not in an AR neighborhood, so not in a platted subdivision. And what we wanted to do is treat those neighborhoods the same, on the same footing that we treat our RS neighborhoods in town. Treat them the same.
Yeah, okay. Is anybody else confused about the P's and N's and the 4s and the 5s and 9s? If it's just me, then I'm screaming.
Code's definitely complex.
Okay. But thank you.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that helps.
Commissioner Fisher?
Yes, Bruce, help me understand, I'm like Commissioner Davenport now, I'm a little bit confused about item number 1, what was it, revise the short rental home occupation. And then you got an individual dwelling and multifamily development. So are you saying if there's a multi-development project, somebody can do short-term rental?
As a home occupation, meaning they still live there. They are the tenant. And if it's condo, then they are the condo owner.
Okay,
But if it's, let's say it's a tenant,
okay,
and you have a 14-unit apartment complex, just off of Millage somewhere.
okay.
Every one of those tenants and all 14 of those units are eligible to come get a home occupation permit to have their online business, or to have a barber chair, or to be a consultant. And so what we were doing is saying, okay, we need to put this on equal footing, because that was the model we were using to kind of help navigate, to keep us safe in how we were regulating these. And so if we're saying that they are a home occupation, then all 14 units have the opportunity to do it as a home occupation use. And so if you had somebody in there leasing it, and they decided to step away for 3 days over a particular weekend of the year and lease it out, they have the right to do it as long as they've done the proper paperwork with the county and they've got everything else with our finance department squared away. It's done administratively and it's fine.
Okay.
So,
Commissioner Taylor? And then I'll get Myers again.
probably not the same thing, but like the accessory dwellings that's on Arch Street and Ruth Street,
Okay.
those are not AR zone, right? Those are not multifamily, those are single family.
Some of them are. It's a mix. There are some that are zoned RM, if I'm thinking of the right spot. Some are zoned RM, but then some of them are zoned RS. With this text amendment, the RS and the RM would be treated exactly the same. You could do a short-term rental as a home occupation. You
As
could not
long
do
as-
it as a commercial short-term rental.
Okay.
So
So
somebody's
as
got to
long
live
as they
there.
live in the big house, they can party in the little house,
No parties.
or vice versa.
They can list that other unit. Yes, right,
I just
exactly.
want to make sure, honey, because they on Arch Street, but yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Bruce.
Got Carol, then John.
So, again, I think it's really important to say what you just said, is that we're just making it consistent. And, we have two kinds, the home occupation and the commercial.
Right.
And the ones in places where people are living that are RM or RS, you can only do the home occupation. So whether or not I want to, in my house, go away for 3 days, I can get the right do that. Or I could take one of my rooms and do that occasionally, put a good lock on there or whatever else. So we're just being consistent in different kinds of neighborhoods. In the ones that already existing, the grandfathered ones, that's a whole other thing. Whether or not we go with the registration, we don't go with that, we find some other way, those are all not going to be affected by what we're doing tonight, unless we somehow make a way. I mean, they have to be addressed differently.
That's going to be a separate discussion.
That's going to be a whole separate discussion,
That's correct.
so.
John and Allison.
She answered my question.
Yep.
Bruce, can you go back to the slide that had all the zoning, the one that okay. So I just want to say, Commissioner Davenport, after our work session where we had that great chart and all the glossary definitions for the upcoming future land use categories, I had asked Bruce to put it in his list of things to do, to give us definitions for each one of these. Is that what you were saying would be helpful? Because I thought it would be.
You know, just the Ps and the Ls and the
Down to
4s and the
underneath the
17s. It's in the packet. So the zoning, I understand, but like, if you look at page, I just moved it.
Any of these? Is that?
Yeah,
Is that?
that.
So this is, what you're saying is this is probably dry as a bone and could be presented better. I think that was the conversation we were having, is how to do this, how to present this information in the use tables in a way that makes the information pop a little faster to interpret so that you're not having to dig
Right,
through.
right.
And we are working on that.
And also, I didn't want to confuse also the glossary for these, because I also don't know the density that goes with these, so not to confuse the two, but you have to be a little bit humble to admit you need more studying and a nicely defined, or you could just send me the link on where the definitions are, and I
Yeah, that
can
would be
print it out
helpful.
myself. So,
Sure.
thanks.
So just from my perspective, how, help me explain it to constituents who don't have no knowledge of RS, RM, and the 4s and the 7s, and
Just in general.
just in general. If it's too much work, I can take my weekend off and figure it out, but.
Okay.
Just
Put an
reading the
explainer
agenda.
together for everybody.
Some
Yeah.
zoning 101.
Yes.
All right. All right. All right.
Kelly, I just have a quick
Bring it
comment.
down for us.
Commissioner Hamby?
Yeah, I just have a quick comment, and I think at the end of the day, we probably ought to have, I mean, maybe not tonight, but a discussion about, and this may come during the licensing part or whatever, but whether or not short-term rentals are actually home occupations, because I think you can make an argument that short-term rentals are actually hotels or bed and breakfasts and not really a home occupation. So just kind of look at it from that perspective as well. Thank you.
Anyone else? Y'all want to take a 10-minute break? All right, we got about a dozen items when we return, and we're going to hit them hard. Thanks, everybody. Everybody, welcome back. Good to have you here. We are going to go ahead and take care of old and new business. And given that the commission has moved a couple of items to discussion, those are items 2, 7, and 16 through 25. So would any member of the public like to speak to any of those items tonight? 2, 7, or 16 through 25? This moment is yours.
Certainly, we can put GOC on consent. Please tell me.
And again, just provide your name and place of residence, and you have 3 minutes. Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Tanisha Brooks. I live at 131 Winbrook Terrace in Winterville, Georgia. I am the Preservation Impact Director at Historic Athens, and in the Preservation Impact Division, we house both the Equitable Housing Program as well as the Hands-On Historic Athens Program. I am here to speak to agenda item number 17 because I applied for $140,000 of the ARPA recapture funds in order to increase impact of the EHP program since the funds will run out next December. Historic Athens has been a great steward of the funds that we have received thus far, as well as the CDBG funds that we have been receiving since 2018 to provide direct rehab services on homes that are 50 years or older to low to moderate income residents in Athens. 100% of our clients are African American, 90% of them are women, single women, and all of them live on a fixed income. I do understand that there is a need for affordable housing in Athens, but I also believe that the services that we provide meet a more pressing need and gives an immediate outcome. If the residents that we serve are displaced due to repairs that they cannot afford, it will only add to the current housing problem that we currently have. The funds requested will allow us to continue to prevent displacement, preserve the current housing stock, and also align affordable housing with historic preservation. So today I ask that you all not allocate the full amount of the recapture to one organization, but split the funds in a way that is equitable and inclusive to all of Athens. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks. Is there anyone else here to speak to any item of old or new business tonight? And again, those are items 2, 7, and 16 through 25. All right, we're going to go ahead and come to commission discussion. Item 2, Commissioner Link, you asked to be removed for discussion. This is the resolution to allow judicial in-rem tax foreclosures. And I know the tax commissioner's here if you have any questions about that.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of understand the process for this and why we have not been using it in the past. I know it could, from what I understand, it would allow the county to take possession of delinquent properties, possibly for use by the Land Bank Authority for affordable housing.
That's correct. So currently, and that is possible using the current non-judicial tax sales that we do. With the land bank becoming reactivated, if the land bank wishes to bid in for a property, there is a mechanism to do that with the existing non-judicial tax sale. When a property is purchased in that type of sale, there's a 12-month right of redemption that the previous owner has where they can reclaim the property by paying to the person who bought it the amount was paid plus 20%. And nothing can be done with the property by the purchaser until that right of redemption has expired and they have foreclosed on that and actually cured the deed to them. So with the judicial in-rem process, because it's a judicially ordered tax sale, it allows us, we still put it up on the courthouse steps, there's still a bidding process, and the purchaser then can take over the property fully after 60 days. There's only a 60-day period where the previous owner can appeal that decision. So once that expires, that can move on. So with the land bank, what they've been doing in Macon, Bibb, and Augusta, Richmond is when they have properties that the land bank is interested in, many times they will put those through the judicial in-rem process to allow the land bank to take over and start doing what they do with these properties much sooner. Okay. So, and the reason we haven't used it previously is because in each county, the governing body does need to authorize the use of that process, and that has never been requested by my office in the past.
That makes it clear. Yeah, I'm happy to put this on consent. Thank you.
No, Commissioner Johnson had a question as well.
Which one is that?
2.
Well, I don't agree with the process or the premise of it. I think it was made clear from the attorney when he said he disagreed with the use of the Land Bank Authority, and I also did homework and I said the Land Bank Authority does not work in Athens. The Land Bank Authority was established by Georgia state statute for areas of blight. Onesie and twosie houses does not fit that definition. And I knew this would happen. And I referenced an actual presentation that was conducted during the GOC meeting when one came in, a visitor who uses the Land Bank Authority in that particular community, their community, where it works because they have blighted areas. And he spoke highly of how you can use it. He spoke exactly of what you're describing. He said this would happen. And the folks said, no, we won't do that. But this is not, I don't want to mislead the definition or people. This is not how you use the Land Bank Authority for onesie and twosie houses. It's for tracts of areas. The other part, the 60 days versus 365, I would like to see somebody that's fallen on hard times and they lose their house because of unpaid taxes get the opportunity. And if it's a longer opportunity, I would like to see that person have that opportunity, to get their home back. That's where I stand.
So to speak to that, the land bank is only one possible use for this process. The primary reason I'm requesting this is to give another tool for my delinquent tax collection division when needed. Primarily for my office's use would be for when we have properties that come up where the title is clouded, where we have potential for litigation by a property owner after the tax sale happens. These are the types of things where we may go to a Superior Court judge and ask them to review it and rule that, yes, this title can be cleared, or that, yes, this meets the definition of what needs to go up for tax sale. Whether or not the land bank decides to use or requests that we do these on properties that they are interested in, that is something completely apart from my office. The only involvement that we have with the land bank is to let them know which properties are available for tax sale and to let us know which ones they may be interested in bidding on.
May I ask a follow-up?
Sure.
You mentioned earlier about, I just forgot. It was not about the land bank. It was about how your office uses the property.
Yeah.
So when you have clouded deeds, how does one know where to send a tax bill to?
So it's not necessarily, we have property records on who the current owner is, but
Okay.
whenever we're going to a tax sale, we do a full title search on that property so that we know exactly the chain of ownership all the way through. And most of the time, there's a very clear definition through each owner and subsequent purchaser on down the line. So there's very clear understanding of every bit of the chain. So I have a couple in my office now that the title comes up, there's a couple of things that weren't necessarily done right. Often it happens when there is a multi-generational family where it passes from one, the original owner passes away, there's still family that lives in the house, the deed never gets changed to the appropriate heir.
Sure.
That may go on for a generation or two, and then by the time it comes up where we're having an issue collecting the taxes, now the title's a little clouded. So to
I
establish
understand that example.
so
Thank
that's
you.
where I primarily would like to have this tool available to us for when those things come up. We also end up sometimes having properties come up where we've put it up for tax sale multiple times and we get no bids. This gives us another tool for clearing those properties out, and that's where the land bank may or may not come in. Again, my involvement is just to let them know what properties are available.
Sure.
And let them know so they can bid. But having this available would help us to make sure that we've got everything really lined up. So if we are selling a property, we know everything is correct. And so it's really on those handful of properties that come up that don't meet that definition. The vast majority of people, when we have properties that come up on a tax sale list, we have a list that we put together, notices go out, and when people start getting the letter of like, hey, we've asked nicely, and let you know several times, and we're finally at this point, and this is after multiple years of non-payment on taxes and
Sure.
ignoring all of these warnings. And so a lot of times, most of the time what happens, they pay before the tax sale day. And that is really just, my job is to make sure that we're collecting the taxes that are due and dispersing it to the various governing authorities. So this gives us another tool.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate your answers.
Commissioner Thornton.
The fact that you're looking for another tool, that means that you're having some problems. How many foreclosures approximately go to the City Hall steps a month? About?
I wouldn't say we're having a problem. It's just we have some of like I said, it's a small percentage of properties that may have an issue with the title or potential for something that really should have a further review by a judge. I'll give you an example for the December tax sale that's scheduled on December 2nd. We originally had a list of about 75 properties. Last time I checked on Monday, it was down to about 40. And honestly, by the time we get to a tax sale, the other 3 tax sales that we've held this year, we have had, I think it was 4 on the first one, only 1 last month. And the summer one, it was about 7 out of 60 to 70 properties. We've been working through a backlog of delinquencies. It wasn't a large number when I took office. I ran a report my first day in, not including 2024, because at the time, that was still the current tax year. But everything from 2023 back was about $5.1 million. My folks have been working on clearing that backlog. We're down to about 1.1 million.
Are you finding your buyers more of developers or business people?
It tends to be individuals. We do have a couple of companies that are fairly regular, and sometimes they are people who want to purchase the property, renovate it, and resell it. But again, they have that full year that they wait on those. And then sometimes it is somebody just looking for a good deal on a property that they can make their own. And every time we do, if we end up disposing of a property at tax sale, it ends up returning it to the tax rolls and then generating the tax revenue that is designed to that helps support the budget. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Everyone okay with this back on consent?
It's good with me? Well,
Want to leave it
no.
off for discussion, Commissioner? All right, moving on to item number 7, and Commissioner Taylor, you asked for this one to be removed.
Yes, so I remember the presentation a few months ago that we received from Hollis and the other guy. But the extension, and just for background, so the extension would be from the quarry, right? From the quarry to,
You would, the connection that you see mapped out is between the quarry and the water treatment facility
Right.
off Barber Street.
right, so I remember at the time, and I'm gonna be honest, I forgot my laptop. I lost a week. Like, I thought we were just here for executive session. Okay, so I do remember during the presentation that there being like almost $1 billion price tag for this extension. And the reason why I wanted to take it off is because I wanted to speak to what I said at the original presentation. I'm not against the extension of this water line, but because of the impact that the quarry has had on District 3, I think as a body, it's only right for us to rectify in partnership with the quarry operators, because we own it, the damages that is done within District 3. And I know that we sat and they said that they had nothing to do with it, but honey, please, yes, they did. I'm not against it, but before we move forward with putting $1 billion price tag on this extension, which will, it is a community benefit, we should first rectify the community benefit of the community that has taken the blunt of what the quarry has done, i.e. home repairs. A lot of structures in District 3 have been shaken because of the blasting. And I think that there are ways that we can come to the table and justify that, as well as do this extension. because I don't want us to go through a drought, but I also don't want District 3 to be left out when we know that a lot of these structure is from the quarry, is what I'm trying to say. The quarry messed up people's houses, and before we put $1 billion tag on extending this water line, we need to make sure we help the residents of District 3. So whatever that looks like, I'm for it. I'm for that first before we decide to put taxpayer dollars into this moving forward. So that's all I had to say about it.
Commissioner Johnson.
I also remember the conversation. It was right after our county manager arrived, and it was not only Commissioner Taylor, myself, I believe Commissioner Thornton, and Commissioner Hamby, and maybe some others if I'm leaving it out. But I actually made the comment that when the director was speaking, you want us to approve something that you want, but you won't do something for these people, and he intimated that he had nothing to do with it, or he didn't know anything about it. And I've gone to enough town hall meetings to know that everyone has knowledge of the quarry and the situation and those individuals. And the simple question was, could we please have a list of the individuals who filed a claim for property repair? We asked for a list of the individuals who have been contacted and where they are in their process. I haven't received a list. I don't know if anyone else has, but conceptually, I would report this. I would support this, but I would actually not support it until that is addressed. You can't give someone else something they want if they're not willing to meet you and help someone else. I mean, I get the big picture. I do understand what I'm saying. But this organization, this group, this neighborhood, District 3, they have been asking for help and assistance. I mean, until you see somebody's floor come apart, and that's how they live every single day, this is just not a one-off, there's no defense to, let's approve this, because this would be better for the greater good when we have a whole district or individuals within 2.5 miles that are suffering.
Manager Cowell or Attorney Drake, do we have a list of claimants related to quarry activity?
We don't have a list of complaints.
I don't think there was
They've been trying to
Yeah,
collapse.
there were definitely indications that there had been claims filed. I don't think anyone's ever seen that list. I also know that the indication from the quarry company was that all of those claims, if there had been claims, there were no substantiated claims. I think they even said that at the town hall meeting with that. So that's where it stands right now. Right now, as far as I know, there are no active claims with the quarry company, and the quarry company and their insurer have not indicated any action to proceed. In other words, no basis to the claims is what they've asserted, is my recollection associated with it. And what I think it's really, I mean, for us, what we're trying to do, and you all know this because we've had these discussions before, is there is both an active quarry operation which is operating under a current lease. At some point, that lease may need to be renewed again if that's a desire to proceed forward. There is also, of course, the reason that that we bought the quarry, which was to build this alternative water source. The design process is probably 3 to 4 years, and that's what we're trying to do, is get that design process initiated. The two issues, the quarry operator, if there are issues associated with it, are in our minds independent from being able to begin this design work. So that's why the item is in front of you. Honestly, if the desire ultimately is don't proceed with design until the quarry operator addresses this issue, you're really placing this larger public investment at the mercy, frankly, of this other party, which we're not. We can't mandate that the quarry operator actually address issues associated with claims, but we certainly, I mean, this project can be set aside. Just, I don't know how this project ever moves forward if we're dependent on a third party addressing issues that are out there. But at this point, I'm not aware of any active claims, and certainly I think the indication from the previous claims are that there aren't any, they have not substantiated those claims. So.
Commissioner Thornton.
Yeah, I do. Now everything's coming back to me, and I do remember when Hollis was here. I want to, if we cannot, I think this commission has to step up. If the quarry doesn't want to do us right, we need to have a resolution or something and make these people whole. That's what this government needs to do. I have seen so much money that has gone. I know Judd is going to give me the gratuitous law, but but you're going to give it to me. But I do think that we need to make that effort. If somebody wants to challenge us, I am not going to support this moving forward and looking like I'm ignoring another bunch of people, a group of people who've been asking for. I'm just not. I'm not. If this means this project and we don't build the water supply, nobody get no water. The quarry folk, nobody get no water. But we need to figure out a resolution to make these people whole, whatever that looks like, and then we talk about this concept plan. I'm just not going to do it.
Commissioner Link.
Yeah, when is the lease with the quarry company up?
I'll have to get you the specific, it's still a couple of years away from it, but I'll get the specific
Because
date.
I know that this project was designed so that there could be a lease renewal and allow them to continue operating a section of the quarry while it fills up to provide that water source. That might give us an opportunity and some leverage to get these folks
Yeah,
whole
the-
when it comes time to renew that lease.
If there is an interest, and there's an advantage for them also in extending the lease, if there is an interest in extending the lease at that time, certainly there are other conversations, I think, that make sense with that lease arrangement, separate and apart from what's being talked about here, that there is an opportunity associated with, if they want to extend the lease, and if we want to extend the lease as it goes forward. Again, and what we'll probably do, if their desire is not to proceed with this design, we'll just set that aside. Just understand that we set it aside. We're setting aside the eventual design of the reservoir, which is intended to begin addressing the drought piece. We could address these issues potentially through the easement extension or some other mechanism. Again, right now, the allegations are that the quarry operator has caused damage, not ACC Gov. And I think that's important that we say that, because we're sort of saying ACC Gov needs to address this issue, but the issue that's been asserted by the residents is that the quarry operator has caused problems.
Well, I'm going to get around to everybody. Notably, ACC Gov was not the owner of the property for many decades when the quarry was operating. So I saw Commissioner Johnson, Myers, and Thorne.
Okay, I'm a big fan of telling the whole story and not part of the story. Athens Clarke County owns the quarry. We bought the quarry. We assumed the responsibility. There have been people who have actually been paying for damage for over 20 years. One woman has worked 2 jobs her entire adult life to pay for damage because she was told that she was the only one, to only come and find out that there were others. And then about 2 years ago, a group formed, and then it was a collective group of all shared terrible experiences. So I want to mention this for the record so everybody hears this. The insurance commissioner is interested in this scenario, this situation. The insurance commissioner is working with this group. If Athens Clarke County, the owner, or the group, or the quarry, the people that are on site does not want to return a phone call, because this is what's happening. I understand how this works. You don't return phone calls, you wait them out, you hold them out, you discourage people, and then they go away. And then they be quiet. And then they just stop complaining, and then they move. That is what's happened. That's what's happened for at least one individual for 27 years. It is not stopped to say, let's do this first and then we'll help them. That's a false promise. I'm only one vote. I won't support this until there is a plan in action. When someone else wants a plan in action, for an example, the core project, how fast did we turn that thing into an action plan of 551 pages and ready to vote on it in 3 weeks? We did that because somebody wanted it very badly. This is that important, it's more important.
Commissioner Myers.
Yeah, I think it actually is important to have the sort of an update. I just did a search in my Outlook for Quarry, and there's an email that we have back from July 29th. I know that I attended the Inner East Athens, but that was not like everyone wasn't there and didn't hear all those things, and that was.
They invited us all.
No, I know, but it wasn't an official county, it's not in our county record as something is there. You can't pull that up. We can't pull that up, but perhaps we could have an update of the information that's been gathered since that email was written at the end of July, and then makes reference, because you're reminding me of the state official who said they would follow up with complaints, and just to find out a little bit about what the update is. And this, by the way, this memo it was very easy to find. The lease ends on December 31st, 2030. It's right there in this. But I think it would be good to have an update on this so that we all have the same information, or as much information that we're sharing here about what the situation is, and
Yeah,
so
and
that
I-
we can make decisions going forward.
And I guess just for clarification on how best to approach that update, because as was mentioned, the Inner East Athens group was the one that convened the meeting, which I was in attendance at that meeting. The state regulator attended and was the main
Right.
presenter with it. So I certainly would feel more comfortable that those parties provide the update versus, I mean, it wasn't our meeting, we were in attendance at that meeting. Now, there were a number of other items that had nothing to do with the quarry
Right,
that
but-
we actually did follow up on and stuff, and those were.
But since it is, even though we didn't, it's our quarry now, so I think it would make sense to call that state inspector up and say, hey, what's your up-to-date from you all? Maybe
Yeah.
we can get
I
something.
mean, I think he'd present to you all even and stuff, so I
Yeah.
mean, he
He
certainly.
had
would be-
a slide deck at that meeting.
Right,
And it
right,
was-
that
it
would be
was-
good to
it-
share
it-
and an update, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not my
Yeah,
turn.
yeah, no, I'm just
It's my
talking.
turn.
Commissioner Thornton?
He was not what I thought he was going to be. I thought he was going to come in there and he was just as wishy-washy and never left anything concrete. He really didn't. Now, one thing we can do to show that we're at least paying attention is get with Inner East Athens and get a list of everybody that has made a claim, just for our record. We don't need the state to tell us that, because we know the state really don't care, but we should care. So the least we can do is get that list, see what we're working with, and then put some of this together. But to move forward with and I get the deadline, I understand that, and I don't want to mess the deadline up either. But to move forward and pretend that we don't hear these folk, that is just inhumane to me. So we got to be a little bit more passionate than the state folk. And then we can look at what can we do. We may have to step out the box a little bit with that gratuitous clause, Judd, but we need to at least make the effort to show that we are hearing and we're concerned. So let's get the list. Let's, Mr. Bob, meet with the Inner East Athens folk too. We just gotta, we still could do this, but we need to make sure we got something that we're going to address Inner East Athens with.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yeah, so during the meeting, staff was also there. So TPW was also there, and there was a note taker. So we should have that information, right, Judd?
Yes.
Yeah, we should have that information, everything that was spoken, as well as the slides that they presented, which was also the same presentation that they gave at East Friendship at the Inner East Athens meeting. Also, Inner East Athens, as well as like residents as far as Shady Brooks, has impact from quarry blasting. Residents as far as Cherokee Road past the Beaver Dam Road also have reported damage from the quarry. And so I do think from a conversation that me and Judd had while debriefing from that meeting that there may be an avenue to take that will help. You know, we want to be strategic when we do this, because there has been a number of residents that have been rightfully impacted. But I think that there's also a way to go about this that'll be, what am I trying to say? That'll get better results than, I would say, I lost my train of thought, but yeah.
Well, and if I may, just to clarify, so what Commissioner Taylor is referring to is prior to the town hall meeting that was held, there was actually a staff level meeting that had folks from public utilities with the state regulator. I know the attorney's office attended, as well as representatives from the manager's office. So we can certainly aggregate those notes, and it's the same slide presentation that was given at the town hall meeting.
Mr. Taylor was at that meeting as well.
Yes, yes. So we can aggregate those notes, provide that to you all, as well as attempt to identify, because I really want, I mean, it sounds like focusing on actual claims that have been submitted, because there have been a lot of allegations made, obviously, across a large swath, but absent having people all stand at the podium and share that with you, it really would focus in on what claims have been filed with that. So we can certainly find that. So.
And that.
I've got Commissioner Lake, and then I'll circle back to you. Commissioner Lake.
Yeah, have these folks secured an unaffiliated third party? I know we had the pro bono legal organization help the folks at Pittard Road. Like, I feel like there really needs to be an unaffiliated third party to work with them and figure out what the claims are.
I think at the town hall meeting, they inferred that they were seeking that at that time. I don't know if they had secured that yet.
I think, I don't think it worked out for the same group that worked for Pittard Road. Might be another group, but the Pittard Road, the mayor represented, I don't think that worked out. I'm not sure.
I don't know if there was a connection there at all. And the formal analysis would be different.
Yeah.
Right, if you're talking about groundwater infiltration versus sort of an engineering analysis of structural deficiencies.
Yeah, because the quarry does have like this thing that if it's in the corner and if it's this way or this way, that the quarry had nothing to do with it, which I told the engineer that that's their analysis, but I just don't think that analysis is accurate, that you need an X in the corner for it to be damaged from the quarry.
Not structural engineering. Commissioner Thorpe.
I'm going to go one step further about the quarry. When you mentioned Pittard Road, and then now we have a data center, and then the quarry, all of that is on the same stretch of the community, and it's impacting the same people of color. And there is a direct correlation. Now, I know we can't do anything about that data center now, and I know that I've spoken to Bob, and he says staff is looking into, and I appreciate that. But it just seems like the water issue is on that stretch of highway. I mean, you wouldn't even think about one without, but I think about it all, because the data center and the Pittard Road is right there in my district. And then you go down, what, is it even 2 miles, 3 miles? You come to the court. All of those are water issues. All of those are environmental issues, in my opinion. So I do think that we don't need to take this lightly when we're talking about the quarry. And we just cannot move on without saying we tried something, we did something.
All right, we're going to leave this on discussion. Yes. All right, going to move on to item 16. This is the GOC report. I know that given the emergence of Christine Howard in the Clerk of Commission's chair, we wanted to make sure that there was a full opportunity to kind of view the processes that were described in the report. I know, I feel like I've asked you 20 times, Commissioner Davenport,
It's like a
to
decent policy. Christine loves it. She says she's going to, I'm just kidding. Christine will send out notes on the GLC's recommendation, and then we'll move forward from there.
anything else?
Yeah, did we want to address the TAD issue in the GOC? I know, Mayor, it was part, and I guess, 'cause I was at the meeting, but I guess I missed the piece about the TAD, and, we wanted to we talked about maybe putting those TADs together, having one TAD, and what I like to do, if I'm in order, is pull that out, pull the TAD issue out, and let us have some more discussion among my colleagues, see what route we want to take. Do we want to do that, or leave the TADs as they are?
And it would be the opportunity for the commission at the voting meeting to say, let's leave status quo with the TADs and accept the other changes.
Okay,
So there'll be a motion.
And,
not now.
and I definitely want to talk to Commissioner Davenport about that same thing before the meeting. So I'm with you.
Okay.
It's at the bottom of the agenda item is 1 and 2 options that we have that gives this body the flexibility to pull out the tags from the other recommendations.
Okay.
Commissioner Myers?
Yeah, I had a couple of comments here, but I appreciate that the GOC incorporated many of the changes I suggested back in September, whenever that was. And now I went and did it, and I don't know if anyone else wants to look at it, but is there a copy of because when I was looking at the back manual, I didn't quite realize that a lot of this had already been in place. So I pulled up the two and looked at it. Do we have a strike-through copy that shows where things, could that be shared with the commission to see? Because I don't want to give you all credit for the wonderful things that were in there that are already in there. But if it's there and easy to share, it might be helpful for people to know what's new versus what was old.
I think we got an email during one of the GLC meetings.
Okay.
But there's one.
It was there are all those documents, right? I know that's, okay. That's fine, I don't need it there. I'll look at it. And in terms of the TAD and the commission districts too, when we come to that, another thing to look at when I was looking at that was that the suggestion is that there be like an oversight TAD committee, right? With someone from each, commissioner. But a lot of those TADs have 2 or 3 commissioners represented in them. So that's a detail that needs to be addressed in there as well. I also wanted to say that there are 2 big changes in the section about the candidates, which I appreciate, like the interview, that we can now, candidates who cannot attend an interview but will have can go to an alternate, we can still look at those people if they can't do it. And then that if we don't have a quorum, we can do things virtually. So that's good too. So thank you for that.
Just approve it.
Just approve it. Well, no, I just wanted to, these are things that I just saw, and they, and the last thing is that, I'm going to approve it, but the last thing was that there is, in the annual reports, it says each back should prepare an annual report as outlined in their enabling ordinance, so that means if it doesn't have one in the enabling ordinance, they don't need to do it?
But they have to do it. So
Okay, so they should do one?
Yes.
Okay, so that wasn't quite clear, but I would also love down the road too, if those annual reports could be associated with the, online for the public to see, with the, where it has you go to the page for the back, and that they would be there just to have that information accessible. So those are just some things.
Well, I know Ms. Christine's looking at this, so she'll catch it, but there's state law that governs when you can meet virtually.
Okay, got it.
Attorney will
Okay.
cover that. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes, I was curious why the descriptions for the BACs aren't included. I noticed that they were struck through and removed. And if I was advertising the BAC vacancies on, like, my website and encouraging residents in District 6 to apply, I mean, they're going to have to call me. They're going to have to try to navigate our ACC website to find something, and that's not really clear or easy. But how do we expect our folks to know what they mean, what they're applying for, or even if they're interested? So my first question. My second question is, if with the conflict of interest form, I'm a fan of that, but if there's a conflict of interest that is recognized, then what? What happens after? What is there a process for? Is that, you know what I mean? Like, if there's more than blank individuals on blank boards, which is a violation of the ordinance. They've completed the form, but then what?
Yeah, so it's lengthy. So the first question, okay, let me go back. So the first.
Why are the descriptions missing?
So GOC broke it up because we figured that BAC is going to be this very lengthy, long conversation. So we got the application process. Then we have just a BAC manual, like how people get on board. So the website, how people apply, that's going to be another iteration. Because we decided to break it up because we were spending like 9 months on this thing. So we're just going to break it up. So it's up to this commission discretion to qualify what would be the word you said. I'm sorry, it's getting late for me. Conflict of interest. But yeah, it's in the BACs where if there is a conflict of interest, you don't live in Athens or something, that you are automatically disqualified. But when it comes to selecting the person, they'll be up to the discretion of the commission. Hopefully that makes sense.
Discretion of the commission to ignore the conflict of interest?
No.
To identify the conflict of interest
Yeah.
is what I understand you to be expressing.
That's correct.
Well, yeah, that's what I got too. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't sound like it means much then if you're just identifying that is a conflict. I mean, I think the issue for the ordinance is to say, for example, if I'm going to make this up, only one person can serve on 3 boards. I'm just making this up, right? And we have one person that serves on 7 boards, and they filed the appropriate conflict of interest forms. So are we saying that, thank you for letting us know that you serve on 7 instead of the 3 that is outlined in our own ordinance? Is that what we're saying?
So, yeah, so if you have a conflict of interest, the new BAC, you'll be automatically removed. You can't be on.
Okay, you're removed from the old, if you're
Yeah.
applying for a new.
There you go. Yeah.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
No worries.
And then to the question of descriptions of the individual boards, authorities, and commissions, is it the intent of GOC that there will be a supplemental document that'll provide some narrative about the functionality of each one?
Yes.
It's on the clerk's website. If they're light, so our thinking was, I didn't raise my hand, I'm sorry. But our thinking was if their missions are like, then we should be able to combine them because they do light work. For example,
There were a couple that are mentioned for sort of collapsing
Yeah.
into one. I guess I'm looking at the document that's in the agenda packet, and it lists them, but it doesn't have a narrative description of them
Right.
in the packet.
It doesn't have any information about like the term.
Was
Like it
the
does in
intent
the
to
original.
eventually amend the
We can add
guidelines
that,
so that you've got a little description of each
Yeah,
one?
we can add that, but I don't think it was mainly. I get what y'all are saying, but we were just wanting to list all the BACs that are out there, which one we can combine and which one that we were addressing the issue of when it comes to training, when it comes to stipends and stuff like that. The next iteration of this process, we can more define those entities, if that makes sense.
I think it is just helpful when kind of people have a one-stop shop and they see, here's what the airport authority does, its
Okay.
range of powers,
Yeah.
here's what the planning commission does, and so forth.
It's on the clerk's.
That'd be good to have it in the BAC.
I mean, I don't think
handbook as well.
people going to apply for a BAC, though, to go to the clerk's website.
Could staff just quickly copy and paste that sucker and put it on there?
Add an
Yeah.
appendix.
Commissioner Wright?
Well, so when we went through this before, it was also a matter of, if we're doing that document and then you're putting the member's name and their expiration date, it would also need a little bit more clarification on, is it just the major duties and responsibilities in the term? The type of question we typically get in an interview, because the depth of stuff that's on the website under the clerk's department took a long time to get on there, and it's extensive. And we worked hard to get it on there year-round versus only when the interviews were going to be underway. So that's always there to read, and you guys are saying that a snapshot of that detail should be included in the BAC handbook. Is that what you're, is that
helpful.
kind of what I'm hearing?
May I
Yeah, it was.
May I say one more thing?
And so, and I just,
And certainly that's something that I think could be done administratively. It's not
that's part
necessary
of the
for.
administrative improvements when you guys go to phase 2.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. We'll get down that road.
Not on consents, what I'm hearing.
Commissioner Johnson?
Well, and keeping in the spirit of a regular resident, I would not know. My commissioner just thought about me. She called me up and asked if I would consider serving on a board. Where can I learn more about it? I'm going to have to answer questions. I'm going to have to, get the information for them. A regular resident, if we just think about not us, not staff, but people that we serve, don't know that this information is on the clerk's website. It's not intuitive yet. It might be one day, but not today. And so I just think if there's a BAC, because we have a BAC page, why not all the BAC information be on the BAC page?
Let me just.
Commissioner Fisher?
I think, and what we talked about is one thing, we're trying to get Ms. Christine an opportunity. That's why we said we paused it, because we wanted to make sure she had the input. I think, and what all the things that we're saying, I think she's probably going to incorporate those things, but I think we need to give her time, get those things there from a website perspective. If a regular resident can go on, it should be easily to find. I think she will work on those things, but I think that's why we had paused it initially with the handbook, and make sure that we can get it on the website where people in the community can easily find it and go to it and apply for these BACs. So I think we need to give her the opportunity to work this through.
All right, moving on to 17. 17 is reallocation of recaptured ARPA funds for affordable housing.
Not on consent.
Input on this. Commissioner Taylor?
Not on consent.
No.
Yeah, so I don't have my laptop, but I do know what this agenda item is referring to. And I do agree that Homes for Habitat does great work. I know that they are behind because of infrastructure holdups. But I also know that Historic Athens, the preservation side that they have, they've done great work within this area with the weatherization as well as the rehabs on houses. And one thing that I have come to realize, preserving the housing stock that we have with residents preferably or specializing in some of our elderly community members. I would also advocate that instead of giving Homes for Habitat the entire pot, that we would look to splitting that pot with Historic Athens for their weatherization program. Because I know some of my residents on my street who's been in their homes like for a long time, they really appreciate the work that Hands on Athens does. And riding by to see that sign in their yards, it made me feel like I'm doing something as a representative. So I hope all of my colleagues would, kind of jump on board. No shade to Spencer, because he probably gonna text me like, but I agree. We should maximize this opportunity to make sure we get the full totality.
Commissioner Link and Commissioner Fisher.
Yeah, can someone fill us in on how much we have in our affordable housing fund right now? And if we,
If you look in the last agenda item in this packet, you'll see some reference to it.
Okay.
And so just if you're looking.
And, I mean, have we established any process moving forward to start allocating some of that money? Because we did.
I think we're going to talk about that in a few minutes.
Okay, because, you know.
But this
there-
is really just about ARPA recapture
Okay,
here.
well, and we do have opportunity to get more money in that fund, so there's money we need to get out there.
Commissioner Fisher?
Yeah, thank you. And to follow up on that too, I appreciate what staff do, but I think it would be helpful before, we put out the RFP, but I think it would be helpful to say, hey, okay, we got a pot of money. We're gonna do an RFP, and to let us sort of know, because when we look at this and we see, okay, you had this much money, you had five nonprofits that applied for those funds, and then one organization get our money, and if we look at our history, we have always tried to divvy that money up among the non-profit community. Now, I do want, and Bob and I had this conversation yesterday, because I was a little bit confused, and I'm just gonna talk about this a little bit. When we got this money back, it came back through economic justice, and they was doing a CNA program. And initially, we were told that any funds that was taken back, those funds would have to be used for that particular program, CNA funds. So, and where I'm going with this is because the regs have changed a little bit, and we use the money for housing. Probably it would have been a good idea to inform the commission, hey, we got some money back, but we're gonna use it for housing or for something else, for whatever. So I think it'd be helpful if we stay in the loop a little bit more when we start talking about these funds. To Commissioner Link's point, how much money we got, and I know we're gonna be recapturing some other funds as we move forward, and we can hopefully use those funds for other areas. But I think it'd just be helpful to us to have that information so we'll know and be mindful. And I don't want to say we was caught off guard, but I thought it was sort of odd that one organization got all the money, and we should need, we got some nonprofits doing some yeoman's work when it comes to housing. We build a new house, and to Commissioner Taylor's point, Habitat does a great job. And I'm glad they're in the community doing what they're doing. But then rehabbing homes and helping people stay in their home is just as important. So we need to make sure that we take a look at how we funding folks and where those monies are going.
And if I may, just for, so that we know kind of moving forward for clarity's sake, so a couple of things. One, yes, there were 6 nonprofits that had responded to the RFP, that all 6 are eligible under the guidance that's been provided. The guidance is actually included in the agenda report, so when you see it in there, that's based actually upon a correspondence that you all received from the attorney's office some months ago.
These
that
are
outlined-
existing affordable housing contracts.
But yeah, I know. Yeah.
And I just wanted to make sure the
Well,
piece
you can do
that.
that if it's an existing one. So these are.
No, what I was talking about though, when we got the money, I'm sorry, Bob, I didn't mean
No,
to cut you off.
all I was gonna say was the piece that, and this is the piece I need kind of clarity on, because we did talk with you all about the money's coming back, it's gonna be in this amount, we're gonna go through an RFP process. So all of that was discussed. The piece that was not was, okay, we received those RFPs, here's the evaluation criteria that we use. To your point, we anticipate that after the January deadline, there'll be other dollars that will be recaptured. We will probably need to work with you all to say, okay, so what are the expectations that when we get those dollar amounts, we know what the rules are, that's been shared. We kind of have laid out a process with it. If at the end of the day, it's gonna actually be not staff recommendations of how these funds should be allocated, but that we actually bring it here for your determination, we'll need to talk about how that works. So that's the piece that will probably, if that's the direction that you're wanting, that it's kind of like, hey, staff, you get to a point, but then bring it here, and you guys are going to have to kind of figure that piece out. We'll need to talk more about that, because we will be, I'm certain, receiving additional funds after January.
Thank you.
I've got
Thank you.
Commissioners Thornton, Johnson, and Myers.
And I guess my question is a little bit more objective. On May the 4th, and it's in your purpose, number 13.
March.
East Athens and the Land Trust came before us for us to approve that we would not recapture their unspent money. My question is, this is what I was asking you, Sarah, so you don't have to. At that time, did Habitat spend all of their money at this point? Okay.
Yeah, at that point, at the March 4th meeting, they were on track with expenditures at that point. They had met their 50%, their 25% by then.
Okay. Now, and while you're there, I know there's a lot going back and forth about an open records request. I'm not going to be naive and pretend I don't know. Can we get a full accounting of all of Habitat's money? You should have a record of that, right?
All of Habitat's money that ACD has granted to them, and
Don't you also?
I'm aware of the open records request.
No,
Yeah.
I'm asking you about the, I'm not talking about the open records
Okay.
request. I'm talking about all the funds that Habitat has received from other sources.
For Micah's Creek specifically?
Yes.
We can put that together.
Yeah, I would like to see what those numbers look like. And my third thought is, if, Bob, if you're really sure that we're going to get monies back, get some more money clawed back in January, why won't we just wait until January and put all the money together to get a better picture instead of trying to allocate it out, dipping it down?
And you could, this was just, all of these dollars obviously have a clock ticking on them. These were dollars that actually, we call them reclaimed, but really these were folks who came to us and said, we're not going to be able to spend these dollars. So it was simply because they were available and applied. And I would say, and you actually referenced one of those instances where it is possible that after January, when we see folks that are in effect eligible for recapture, you all may choose not to do so. You may decide that they've got a plan to go ahead and finish it up and move forward. But definitely on the last updates that we sent to you all, there are definitely a number of folks that have fallen behind the performance measures. So we do expect that piece. But yes, you could certainly take these dollars and simply hold them and roll them into the discussion. Just understand it squeezes that timeline tighter.
It's squeezed now. I would rather for you to recap it like tomorrow. Whoever is behind tomorrow, because.
Commissioner, you remember what we did? We set up a calendar.
I remember that calendar, and if there's already signs, you don't have to wait until the ball drops. If there is already signs that people are not going to meet those deadlines, we need to start planning now and not wait until January. That's
And
my
we
only
certainly
point.
we're doing that right now, getting ready for those. That's why you all are being provided kind of those updates along the way, so you can kind of see who they are, but yeah.
And my last point, when Commissioner Fisher talked about the misinformation of what is funded, what I was told, it wasn't CNA, it was the category.
Yeah, same thing.
It was, no, because it's under the homeless category. CNA, that was under the homeless pot of money. And the other money was from workforce. They were both EJC, but it wasn't CNA's, it was it fell under homeless.
That's true.
Yeah, and if you look at, in the agenda report, if you look at it's page 5, I don't know what it is in the overall packet. Item number 4, A, B, and C, those are based off of the memo that the attorney's office provided previously that really identify the categories that would guide any future use of reclaimed dollars. So,
Got, Commissioner Johnson and Commissioner Myers.
Really quickly, I want to ask a question about the last thing you said, Bob. Page 4, number 5. Is that a hard and fast? Is that stuck in like stone, or is that just what's in the agenda for tonight? Or
no,
could the
that
category
is
be
that is
it?
those categories are the fixed categories from the Treasury guidance. So,
Okay,
yes.
thank you. So I wanted to say tonight that I'm not a fan of any one entity ever getting all the money. I think there's clear evidence of why. I think there were, I believe Commissioner Fisher, Taylor, Thornton, maybe not Thornton, but I know Myers, for a very good reason, supported the Boys and Girls Club, and it was on the agenda before I joined in April. I believe it was April, May, and June, and eventually, subsequently, they did receive an award for $2.9 million, in which they were supposed to provide $1.4 million and spread it out through 2 other organizations, smaller organizations, with the purpose of building them up, strengthening them up, helping them out, giving them opportunities, expanding their opportunities. And, well, we already know what the challenges that we have with the Boys and Girls Club are currently. But the second thing that a lot of people do not know is that a lot of those churches who had those youth camps, a lot of other groups, many groups that received money year after year after year after year. Once the Boys and Girls Club got the entire pot, those organizations and churches stopped getting money. Only a handful got money versus that I'm not going to say the normal list because everyone has to apply, but it became increasingly difficult for the same people who figured out how to prepare their paperwork correctly and turn in their outcomes data to then get an award to all of a sudden the money has gone to one entity, and then they do the exact same thing, no change, probably got better with time, and then they did not get a response and answer a phone call or a follow-up with. And I've worked with four of the agencies as a private contractor. I do know that the same commissioners that supported also had a very challenging time getting outcomes data. And that's not on them. It's just I would not ever support providing any funding, one pot of funding to one entity, regardless of who it was. I just wanted to say that for the record.
Commissioner Myers?
Yeah, just for the record as well, before I get to my main point, I think on that Boys and Girls Club allocation, it was a unanimous support vote. That was back in June of 2.5, 3 years ago, I don't know. Anyway, back to this item. I did want to point out a couple of things, because there's a lot, and this is the last item I was able to look at really closely, but I think, that the regulations that we had for reobligating the unspent ARPA funds and such did include, one option was to have it for the same exact kind of item, but another option was to move it to another ARPA thing. And that's what we voted on that as a group a year ago. Because I know someone in the community was asking me about that last night as well, and that just came up here. The other thing is that one, on these, we might disagree with it, but on this, the eligible expenses that HCD used for giving points, one of them was to demonstrate existing cost overruns, and the Habitat project has overruns, and perhaps you all can talk to those overruns, because I know I'd like to understand that, as well as having the full budget of the Micah's Creek, because all of this money only adds up to a little bit of that project. If we could get all of that project for $2 million, we'd have a really good deal. So if you could talk to those overruns. And then the last thing, my concern with divvying this money up at this point is that, one, the priorities were to deal with cost overruns so that a project could be completed. On the other projects, Historic Athens has done great work with the rehab, but they and the Council of Aging, which they also received exactly the same scoring on this rubric of 83.7, they do that rehab as well. And the Athens Land Trust, the young urban builders were, 2 points below at 81.25. So we have 3 organizations that do that good rehab work, which I think is really important. But they were actually able to fulfill what they were supposed to do, where the Habitat project seems to be, having problems, which I hope will be addressed here. So if the manager or someone could address that scope of work also, because there's this whole other thing which no one's brought up, which you can help me explain as well, is changing the number of houses, like instead of doing 5 and 5, doing 5 and then putting the money on the infrastructure. I think that was kind of the plan. So if you could address that, what's happening there, And I'm assuming when you're addressing that, if you could clarify, Micah's Creek as a whole, the scope isn't changing, it's just the scope for this ARPA money that's changing, is that correct?
Correct. The Micah's Crossing right now is trying to address increased costs associated with infrastructure in that development. They're actually going through a process right now to actually phase the project instead of it being all at one time. I think I know we've shared with you all also that there are SPLOST dollars that are designated for affordable housing, which we will similarly be pushing out an RFP. And I would fully expect that Habitat under Micah's Crossing would compete for those dollars for that reason, because it's really increased infrastructure costs in Micah's Crossing, which is what's driving a lot of the need for additional funds going into that project and a lot of some of the adjustments that you've made. But we can certainly provide you with more information regarding Micah's Crossing as far as what that gap is currently. We can definitely do that. Can't do that right now, but we can definitely do that.
Great.
I do think if, again, as we go forward, and I'm thinking forward to when we look at other reclaimed funds that are coming in after that January, the way we handled this previously was we came and asked for your guidance on which of the 3 eligible strategies that we have, should we use, and the decision was use the strategy 1, I think it was, and then you specified affordable housing. So what we'll need as we approach January, that's kind of getting ready for additional dollars coming in, we're going to need some guidance from you all then, because we took it from there. Staff developed those rubric, issued the RFP, and then evaluated those and made this recommendation. If, again, that's not the approach that you want to take, after you've made that first decision, it's going to go toward affordable housing, it's going to go toward whatever those things. If you're going to want to apply, either approve what the rubric is and/or make the selections of who's going to get what funding, we'll need to know that well in advance, because we'll have to incorporate that in the process going forward. So it's just something to think about as we go into those other inevitable recapturing.
Commissioner Link?
Yes, just quickly, I want to clarify. This is $273,000 of ARPA funding that's coming back to us that needs to be spent by the end of next year by an affordable housing entity that already has gotten ARPA funding, that has a shovel-ready project that can finish spending it by the end of next year.
Yes.
In the meantime, we have $6.4 million in our affordable housing fund that has no deadline. So there is that money sitting there to get these other entities sustainable beyond that ARPA deadline. And we have the potential to add $8 million more to that fund if the core project passes.
All right,
Just
we
saying.
will continue discussion of this first Tuesday of December. All right, item 18 should not be so lengthy a challenge. Would anybody like to ensure that those patrons of establishments would be able to purchase a beverage on the Sunday of Super Bowl?
Let's do it. It's been a favorite.
18 on consent?
Please, please.
Wait, what is 18?
Christine, 18 is on consent. All right, moving on to 19. 19 is the Barber Street pedestrian and cycle improvements.
I have a couple questions. I'll email those to staff. Thank you.
Commissioner Lake?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask Manager Kell to walk that last leg from Boulevard to Prince Avenue with me in the next week or so.
She asked me about that beforehand.
Yeah, we
She's not springing it on me now.
Because I feel like we're getting this kind of one-size-fits-all approach when I really feel like we need a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B and a little bit of column C. It's a very diverse, it's only about a third of a mile or so, but it's a really diverse section of historic neighborhood street. And, you know, we need to make it safe to cycle, but we also need to maintain that lovely shaded character and make sure we're not blasting through the front yards. I know, from what I understand, what's really messing this up is Georgia Power will not allow us to move the utility poles into a verge. So if we expand the verge, we can't move the utility poles into a new verge. So, yeah, I'm hoping we can come up with a creative solution to.
So you pulling this?
I don't know. Bob and I are gonna have a chat.
I'd
know,
certainly
I
be
want-
glad
I
to be.
wanna remind
Commissioner
you-
Thornton, just a second. I'd be certainly glad to be part of that. A longtime advocate for these projects generally, and this project particularly. And I think it's important to recognize that, we don't have all the funds that we would like really for any version of at least a couple of segments of this. And so what I would encourage the commission to do is recognize that at least from Oneida Street to where you have the three-way intersection at Chase and Newton Bridge, we've got the opportunity to create some connectivity and quality that does not exist now. And so the staff recommendation is really to focus on that kind of three-leg intersection, and recognizing, of course, there's going to have to be some different treatment as we approach Prince Avenue, where there would have to be other property acquisitions. So just let's think about that in the big picture of this conversation. So, Commissioner Thornton.
And I'm totally in agreement with you. Mayor, I really am. Commissioner Link, this is a 2018 project. And the reason it's a 2018 project is because we keep going back and forth, back and forth. And I hope when you take that walk, that you will be ready to vote this so we can move on, because nothing's going to be, and you know what's so interesting? Your district gets everything. So I have no, let's walk with Bob, but please come back ready to move this, okay? Thank you.
All right. Anything else on this? There's lots of complex schematics in there, so I know it's difficult to look at, but certainly I think if you do want to visit the site with staff, they can really demonstrate to you the treatment that they're recommending to move ahead with actually engineering and putting on the ground, which I appreciate dearly. 20 is another pedestrian bicycle project, Jefferson River Road. Any input on this one?
Please put that on consent.
Which one? Well, that's Commissioner Johnson's area.
Everybody okay with consent on 20?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I do have a question, but I can wait for the voting meeting.
That was River.
And if you kind of deliver that to staff now, they can get that to you.
Okay, will do, thanks.
All right.
Let's
21, 22,
Yes.
23
Yes,
are some supplement updates. Anything on the probate court? These are 30 grand in aggregate, so 21? Any
Yes, consent.
consent, they're okay? All right, 21 is consent.
I do have a question for 21 to 23. Didn't we vote on this in our 26 budget that we're gonna, so why are we consenting?
So one of the things that happens with some of these positions is that some of them are on a calendar year funding cycle, and so we don't know the exact amount until later on, so we have to get specific. 21, 22, 23, am I hearing consent for all three of those?
Please.
All right. 24 is the mental health recovery facility, the waiver of the water and wastewater connection fees.
I'm consenting.
I
Consent.
know
I
we've
would
gotten
like
a
to keep it
request
off.
for kind of entire waiver rather than the 30%
Is it
that's
ready
in the
for-
agenda report.
Is everything ready in it?
Oh, yeah.
Good to go?
I would like to keep it off
Shovel
consent,
ready?
because I have some questions.
We can take it off.
Take it off.
All right. All right.
Hold on.
Commissioner Fisher?
So initially, they was asking us for a 1% waiver, right? So now it's down to 30,
30 is the policy for affordable housing projects.
okay? So, but I think.
And so staff would be pursuing just that underlying policy, and if we would want to do something different than policy, we would have to be active in making a motion to do that for this project.
Yeah, we can leave it off. Yeah, I need to find out what staff is gonna tell us then.
Not consent.
Not consent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll remain on discussion. All right, and then 25 is staff's analysis of the relocation of the two homes
Not
from
consent. Not consent.
110 Puritan Lane and 1060 Macon Highway.
I guess my thought is, why that location when there's a, where we went, what?
Down at,
White House,
Grocery,
yeah.
Town's Grocery.
There are some issues with the Whitehall location, and we'll get those to you, because we looked at that site as well. So
Okay.
we'll get those to you. That this location was just easier to be able to locate them on, but we'll get the details for you.
Okay, then
Yeah.
we'll leave
Yeah,
it off.
Yeah, location hasn't been really the bigger issue. The bigger issue is actually finding a partner to actually take over the rehabilitation of the units.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Any other questions about the staff report? I want to make a comment, but
I did
Mr.
just
Myers?
want to know if, and I have not had an opportunity to thoroughly read this staff report, but this is $536,000. We were just talking about that. Is that enough? And it might say it in the staff report, but is that enough? Is that would cover, like, if we have 536,000, we're going to be able to move those houses and people will be able to move in them?
What it would do is it would move them, and it would mitigate all of the known environmental issues. So lead would be removed, asbestos would be removed, any of the pests that would be there removed. No, that's why I said the next step in it would be, we would still need a partner to actually rehabilitate the units to be livable. And so there likely would be additional contribution to funds to be able to make that happen. So, yeah.
And is that
It's in the report.
in the report?
The dollar amount? No,
Yeah.
because we don't have a partner yet, nor do we know the dollar amounts for that.
There's sort of a guesstimate of something like another $500,000 to rehab the 2,000.
So it would be $1 million for two houses?
Ballpark.
Okay, that's a lot of money.
You know what's crazy? The order that we did was, we approved the moving of it before we knew how much it cost.
No, we didn't approve it.
We already know?
No,
We're voting.
Oh, that
You
was
were
like a
just-
couple of months ago?
We haven't approved.
Yeah, you had just indicated a
discussing it.
preference.
Yeah, that's all.
Look at it.
So, I apologize, I thought we
Yeah.
discussed it, that's right.
And I'm going to always go back to this. Everybody's kind of, and for our new commissioners that are new, when I think about how much money we paid for that toilet downtown,
318.
and we still pay for the maintenance, and it doesn't house nobody. So that's where I stand at, and we need to make that sacrifice if we can do something. But, okay, take it off consent.
What I would recommend, if commissioners are interested in moving forward with a viable, affordable housing project that could house more people than just in 2,000 square foot homes, we do have an affordable housing trust fund. We do own some very viable property that we've talked about lately on Hancock Avenue and Harris Street near the health department. We could probably construct much more space there than the relocation and rehabilitation of these homes would cost for the same dollar amount. So what I would recommend is, if we're interested in this thematic area, that we pursue a project like that with our Affordable Housing Trust Fund, likely in connection with ultimately a partner like the Housing Authority, because we can expend public funds with a public entity. So that's a real viable path if you're interested in getting some folks housed. Commissioner Davenport?
Isn't there an agreement to move the Hoyt house over there?
Yes, it's a large property, so you could have several things there. Discussion.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
All right, we've got a motion to adjourn in a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries.
Nobody killed nobody.